Hello and welcome, my name is Reese and today I'm going to be speaking to you about one of our channel partners, Bitdefender. Forever Sports is proudly supported by Bitdefender, one of the global leaders in cybersecurity. Stay safe with the most consistently top-rated antivirus of the last 10 years and counting. To protect yourself from cyber attacks, protect your browsing and personal information, and so much more, get Bitdefender. With Bitdefender's premium VPN, digital privacy and freedom is as easy as flicking on a light switch. Bank, stream, and download without exposing a single byte of personal information. Unblock your favorite streaming sites and get access to content that you want to watch on up to 10 devices today. Effective, invisible, and amazingly affordable. Use the link in the description to get started.
We are waiting overhead to see whether this rain will affect. Risk of rain for the Formula One qualifying session is sitting at 80%. As Lindy Ware says, hello everybody, thank you very much for joining us once again. As Russell Sandy also saying, Lewis Hamilton all the way. So let's see whether that will come true this afternoon. As we're looking at the fastest in the practice formats, Norris took practice 1, Alonso took practice 2, Hamilton took practice 3, but qualifying is rarely where it all matters for the race tomorrow afternoon. Who will take the top spot here today? Let me know in the comment section. I said Max Verstappen will take that top spot with Lewis Hamilton second and Fernando Alonso in third. Let's see who will be the fastest though. As Noel Pujita says Max, I hope. He's saying, oh geez, 80% for the rain predictions here in quali. Cora saying, evening guys, thank you very much for joining us, Cora. 125 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much. As I'm sure you've noticed, we have now surpassed 6,000 subs on this channel and going towards 7K. So be sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not already, so that you can stay up to date with all the latest Formula One and Moto GP news, as well as all of the other big motorsport news that may come out. We're looking at a couple of drivers not wasting time to wait at the end of the pit lane, because of course with the threat of rain you do not want to get caught out and not have a clean lap in. Charles Leclerc still in his pit box at the moment. Lando Norris now leaves his grid box, or his pit box rather, as the two Red Bulls as will join the queue. A very expensive traffic jam waiting for the green light. 1 minute still to go. TC saying, what's the chance for Zhou causing a red flag again, as we're seeing some raindrops falling on the circuit now. So these outlaps are really where it matters, as we have the green flag now being shown. All of the drivers waiting to get out on circuit, desperate to get a clean lap in before the threat of rain affects their chances of getting out in Q1. It is just getting darker and darker over the circuit as the clouds come more overhead and the threat of rain becomes even more ominous. We're watching the first drivers getting out on circuit tentatively, as it is still quite cold around there, getting their soft tyres up to temperature to prepare for their first hot laps of this qualifying. Mark saying Max should take every pole. He has the best car by far. Anything less is a failure by him. Well, not certainly him having the fastest car anymore, because I think that some of these other cars do behave better under bumpier circuits. Lando Norris being told we've had light drops reported from turn 7 to turns 8, but we don't see anything on the radar. Very light drops for now, as the wind is picking up to 12.2 kilometers an hour southeasterly. Back onto the conversation about the Red Bulls having to get every single pole and every single race win. It's not so easy for them anymore, as I've said, because they rarely do seem to struggle on bumpier circuits, and there seems to be a couple of gremlins, maybe not necessarily reliability gremlins, but just getting the setup correct on a race weekend. Max Verstappen becoming a lot more vocal on the radio, not happy with the way that the car is reacting to his steering inputs this weekend, saying the steering felt a little bit funny. Hopefully, they were able to fix that ahead of the qualifying session here today. As Dritoya just saying that this is going to be the best quali, as we're watching. I think this is Fernando Alonso approaching the start-finish line to start his first hot lap. No, this is Lance Stroll starting his first hot lap now, getting his banker lap in for today. Stroll comes onto the radio saying tires are cold. I did expect that to happen. It is still really cold around the circuit. He goes quite hard onto the curbs into turn 4, now through turn 5, threading it through turn 6. Really difficult left-hander. You can get quite a lot of oversteer and often understeer, depending on how you take that line, as we're watching George Russell still in his pit box. Now getting released on brand new soft tyres, as is Lewis Hamilton. 15 minutes remain of this Q1 session. If drivers do not get a clean lap in here, that could really affect them in terms of getting out, as this threat of rain is becoming more and more ominous. Stroll getting ready to put his first lap time on the board as Max Verstappen steals his fastest middle sector. Now Lando Norris steals the fastest first sector. Someone's stolen the middle sector away from Verstappen as well. Now Verstappen approaching the start-finish line. Norris has stolen the middle sector now away. Verstappen going quite deep into the wall of champions. Crosses the line, takes the fastest lap with a 1:15.194. Where will Lando Norris finish as he comes down the final long finish straight, approaching the start finish line? A lot of traffic before the wall of champions, coming through the left hander now. Past wall of champions, much neater and much more controlled than Verstappen. Norris crosses the line, he goes fastest with a 1:14.5, 0.6 seconds faster than Verstappen. Might be possible that drivers are on high levels of fuel as Sainz goes deep into turn one. Heavy amounts of winds right now, and drivers already struggling with low grip out on circuit. 30 minutes remain. TC saying both Mercs are now out on circuit, as we do now have all 20 cars out on circuit. Stroll on his second push lap takes the fastest first sector, so clearly drivers taking more fuel to get as many laps out on as possible because of the threat of rain. Yuki Tsunoda finishes his lap with a 1:17.9, only good enough for sixth. Stroll approaching the start finish line now. Where can he put himself? He goes up to first with a 1:14.519, fastest final sector for him. Magnussen goes up to ninth as Sargent moves himself up to fifth. Ricciardo now up to seventh with a 1:16.496. Perez noting very low grip out on circuit. Russell going even faster, half a second up at the moment on Stroll's time. Hamilton 0.1 down on Stroll's time. Leclerc finishes his lap with a 1:15. Only good enough for seventh as Hülkenberg puts himself into third. Russell passing the wall of champions now, crosses the finish line. Alonso goes first. And now Russell takes that away from him. Hamilton now also crosses the line, third fastest with a 1:14.494. 224 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining on this channel. I am Reece, joining you on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Looking at Fernando Alonso getting so close, or rather Lance Stroll getting super close to the wall of champions. You don't want to get any closer than that, because that could be the end of your qualifying session. A wall that has caught out the greats like Michael Schumacher, Sebastian Vettel, just to name a few. Just looking at that massive snap of understeer that Carlos Sainz had into turn one, just struggling on his tire grip there. Lando Norris on his second push lap now, though, going way faster than his first, crosses the finish line now and goes fastest with 1:13.541. Norris takes the fastest sector in all three sectors, 20.7 in the first, 23.3 in the second, and a 29.4 in the third sector. Stroll still pushing out on circuit. Current elimination zone drivers are Sargent in 16th, Perez in 17th, Ricciardo in 18th, and Tsunoda in 19th. And that is now changed up with Zhou 16th, 17th is Sargent, Perez is 18th, 19th is Ricciardo, and 20th is Tsunoda. Verstappen is only 14th though at the moment, so he needs to get a better time on the boards as he set the fastest first sector of anybody. Yellow flag in sector 1. Possibly just an excursion into the grass or something, as Stroll moves himself up into second place. Sargent moves himself up to 5th, waiting for Daniel Ricciardo to cross the line. He goes up to 3rd. Lindy was saying, when I think of past GPS, it seems that the Merc cars prefer cold temperatures. That's when the cars seem to perform the best. Verstappen first, fastest in the first sector, personal best in the middle. What can he do now? Crosses the line and goes fastest with a 1:13.368, 0.173 faster than Lando Norris. Very good lap time from Max Verstappen. Perez only goes fastest for 50, now gets dropped down to 16. He's still struggling in that Red Bull car. DC saying that Stroll is quick today. Certainly is looking a little bit faster. As we're watching Stroll having a Russell goes over the grass there. Sorry, just a momentary disconnection for me, but I am now back. George Russell went a little bit wide there and went over the grass, so that will be the end of his current lap. 8 minutes and 38 seconds remaining. Verstappen still with the fastest lap time of 1:13.368. Lando Norris in second, 0.1 down. Lance Stroll still with some great pace out here, 0.1 down as well, as Alonso is making himself in with a mix in fourth. Carlos Sainz in fifth, Charles Leclerc in sixth right now, not being able to match the lap times of those top 4. Lewis Hamilton coming through the middle sector now. What can he do? Bit of an oversteer for him as he comes through one of those final couple of corners. Hamilton 0.7 up on Piastri. Purple sector in the middle sector. A little bit of wheel spin though as he comes out of the hairpin of turn 12. Russell goes fastest with a 1:13.2. As Hamilton waiting for him to approach and cross that start finish line. Where will he put his Mercedes? He goes up to third with a 1:13.443. Hamilton finding some good pace now for himself out on circuit, but George Russell really looking like the better of those two Mercedes today. Just watching a replay of Oscar Piastri coming through turn 3, just getting held up by George Russell, and I think that is Yuki Tsunoda. Yeah, that is Yuki Tsunoda who holds him up in the first sector. Really, really bad for those two cars to have held him up so badly. There may be an investigation into that as we're watching Lewis Hamilton coming through that oscillation down into turn 3 and 4, just seeing how the bodywork reacts and bobs around. As Charles Leclerc, seeing him getting held up a little bit into turn 1, just putting him off. He comes onto the radio saying, come on, they're being ridiculous. Just having that traffic on the inside of turn 1 that really puts you off as you approach that really tricky braking zone. Be sure to think about becoming a member of our channel if you are one of our regulars, where you can, of course, gain access to more exclusive content, as well as being able to be seen a little bit better in our chat, as well as just supporting this channel and everything we do on it. If you don't want to become a member, be sure to think about also checking out one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER, down in the description below for all of your cybersecurity needs. Check out the global leader in cybersecurity, BITDEFENDER. As we're watching a little bit of a lull in action out on circuit now. Some drivers out on warm-up laps ahead of their final pushes. Sergio Perez still pushing out on circuit though, trying to find any pace in his Red Bull car. He is currently in the bottom elimination zone, sitting in 17th, wide as he comes through turn 12, missing the apex. Perez, who's just had his contract extended with Red Bull, desperate to find some form here this weekend in Canada. Coming through 13 and 14, he abandons this lap and goes straight into the pits. Verstappen also into the pits. 5 minutes remaining of this Quali 1 session now. Perez now getting lifted up on the jacks and being put back into the garage. Hopefully they can make a little setup change and allow him to be a little bit more comfortable in his car. But he is certainly not looking as happy in that Red Bull as Max Verstappen is at the moment. Watching Pierre Gasly right now out on circuit. Still watching with Pierre Gasly coming beautifully through the middle sector, really hooking it up. Not too much wheel spin as he comes through turn 11 and 12. Really tricky happen as race control is noting the impeding from Hamilton, Tsunoda, and Piastri for turn 4. Piastri is currently up on Tsunoda's time to get himself out of that relegation zone. Will he be able to do it? He should come across the line any second now. As Gasly crosses the line, he puts himself in second place with a 1:13.289. Brilliant lap time for the Alpine. Piastri now coming through the final 2 corners, so close to the wall of champions. DRS open once again. He crosses the start-finish line and only good enough for 11th, but hopefully that should be enough to keep him out of trouble. Stroll goes faster with 1:13.088, going up to that top spot. Ocon improves for 5th place with a 1:13.4. Johan asking why are Ferrari in the pits? They're just putting on some new tyres. They are out on circuit though once again, as is Verstappen and Sergio Perez. Lando Norris now goes even faster with 1:12.959. He says, I see your 1:13 and now up until 1:20 or 1:12. So brilliant lap time for Lando Norris, waiting for Tsunoda. Tsunoda crosses the line. He goes up to 4th. Brilliant lap time for himself. The evolution is monstrous around here, so certainly will affect whoever gets out last. Max Verstappen complaining about downshifts on his car. Being told that not all of his feedback needs to be over the radio. He can also just let them know digitally on the dash. So maybe just not wanting to give as much of their struggles away to their rivals today. As Lindy says, might a Stroll podium be on the cards tomorrow? That would be a lovely surprise. It certainly would be an interesting surprise. I don't think it's necessarily possible, but we'll have to wait and see. They are looking like they are quite competitive at the circuit this weekend. Watching Sainz at the moment out on circuit putting in a hot lap. Hamilton finishes up a lap time with a 1:12.5 or 1:12.8 rather. Lando Norris jumps into the pits. He is secure for this session as the FIA stewards say no further investigation for the Hamilton Tsunoda incident when they impeded Oscar Piastri. Leonardo Longhi saying, hi there, late to the party, but here I am. Thank you very much for joining with us. And thank you very much to the 264 others that are also in the stream here at the moment. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to let me know who you're supporting. Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez are finishing up their final hot laps. Will they be able to get themselves a little bit higher up the order as Perez is just faster then the driver he needs to beat, Alex Albon. But will that be enough? Perez is improving, but as is everyone else on the grid. Will that be enough for him to get out? Leclerc finishes his lap time. Good enough for sixth place right now. Sergio Perez now coming through the final two chicanes past the wall of champions. Coming across the finish line, only good enough for 12th. Will that be enough for him? There's still a lot of drivers who need to finish their lap times. Verstappen going fastest in the first and second sector. Brilliant lap time for himself right now being shown with only 3 seconds remaining. So this will be the end of the session. Now Albon's improving on his lap time. Will it be better than the likes of Sergio Perez? Sargent goes up to 6th. Brilliant lap time for Logan Sargent. Alex Albon needs to be able to match that or better that. Verstappen now coming past the wall of champions, approaching the start finish line. He goes up into first place with a 1:12.360, 0.491 faster than Lewis Hamilton. Sonoda improves up to second place with a 1:12.748, 0.3 down on Max Verstappen. Brilliant lap time for Yuki Tsunoda. Where will Alex Albon put himself? He passes the wall of champions, approaching the start finish line. Where can he go? He goes up to fourth. Brilliant lap time for himself. He eliminates Sergio Perez though from qualifying one here in Canada. Sergio Perez punching the air, very disappointed and very frustrated in that Red Bull car, eliminated from quali one for the second weekend in a row. Very, very disappointing for himself, disappointing for Hugh Bird, his race engineer, as well, as he just lets out expletives on the radio. We do not know what has happened to Sergio Perez. 2-year contract extension for Sergio Perez, but he is out in qualifying one, and his family in the garage also not looking like they're all too impressed with that. Red Bull fans as well looking like they are quite disappointed with Sergio Perez here today. Lindiwe saying, your Perez, just after contract extension news. Just, yeah, that is not the reason he has been re-signed with Red Bull. That is not the pace that we expect from Sergio Perez, a very, very senior and very, very experienced racing driver in Formula One, taking part in one of the most competitive teams and competitive cars on the grid. That is not what he should be doing, as you can see him just getting frustrated, hitting the halo, punching his arms in the air, and shaking his head in the cockpit as he is told that he has been dropped from quali one. That is very disappointing for him, especially when Verstappen is leading the entire grid right now as a Sergio Perez fan, just mimicking some tears out in the grandstands. Ari just saying, give Yuki Sergio's seat. I certainly agree with you there. So looking at the gap between Verstappen and Perez, Verstappen is 0.78 faster than Sergio Perez. That is just a massive gap to Sergio Perez. Rain is really, really close now overhead. So this could affect the next session. Sergio Perez just looking absolutely distraught under his race helmet. Leonardo Longhi saying Perez gets a new contract. Sargent is the one to move out of the elimination zone. It is certainly an interesting one there. Sargent finding some great pace out in his Williams kart here today. Now, Rob Porchisa saying he should be doing better. I certainly agree with you there. Looking at this rain cloud moving overhead, it is a small weather system, but it is enough to completely cover the track, and it is making its way overhead. Then Dewey saying, if Perez continues to perform this way, I would not be surprised if Christian Horner triggers a release clause. I don't think Perez is 100% safe with the contract extension. No, I certainly don't think he is safe there either. I think, yeah, it could be quite tricky for him if he does not pick up the pace in that Red Bull second car, as we're watching the rain cloud moving closer overhead. Another random human saying Yuki literally confirmed by Red Bull for next year, now trying to show that he deserved better. Certainly we'll wait and see what happens with that second Red Bull seat. It is such a tricky seat to be in Formula One because you are up against the most dominant, one of the most dominant racing drivers in the sport at the moment, in one of the most dominant cars as well. Ari saying they can easily switch drivers between the two teams, even with their contracts. They certainly can. They own the two teams. They've done it before in the past, and I'm sure they'll do it again if it needs be. All of the drivers waiting at the end of the pit lane right now, waiting for the green flag, as rain is expected in under 20 minutes now. All the drivers out on a brand new set of soft tyres. Wow, Max Verstappen really close to the rear of the McLaren. He might even be touching that rear tyre of Oscar Piastri. No, it's just millimeters between Verstappen and Piastri there. As we're watching the Red Bull still fired up, waiting for these green lights to be shown. He is so close to the back of Piastri's car. As we're now seeing the fans starting to put on their raincoats. So this could be very, very interesting. It is all about who gets in that first hot lap time, who can get it in the best first. And of course, it's all possibly going to count now because of that incoming rain. 15 minutes now on the clock, and the green flag is shown. First driver is now out as we're seeing the rain falling over the circuit. It is now raining. So, as I said, these first laps will certainly count. As TC says, the rain looks heavy. It certainly does look like big raindrops overhead. Verstappen going out on a set of used tyres. This could work out well for him because it could allow him to warm his tyres up that little bit faster. He's going to have to wait for the entire grid to go past him, though, because he was not able to get his nose in there. He does now get going, though, as rain is expected in about a couple more minutes, but it is certainly starting to come overhead. Leonardo saying, let's go, love rainy weekends. Leonardo asking how long the rain will last. At the moment, 2 to 3 minutes is what he's being told, but who knows what is going to happen out here. George Russell starts the first hot lap of the Q2 session now. He will be able to get his first lap time on the board, at least ahead of everyone else, as Max Verstappen only leaves the pit lane now. Russell rarely hooked up coming through turn 6 now, ahead of Max Verstappen, purple first sector. You can see some of the raindrops just sliding across his visor. He could get the best opportunity here, the driest conditions out of anybody Fastest first and second sector. Hamilton not able to match that first sector. Hamilton steals that second sector, though, away from George Russell. But who will get the fastest overall lap time? Russell making his way through 14 and 15 past the wall of champions, not hitting it here today. Crosses the line. Where does he put himself? Of course, in first with a 1:13.1. A good starting lap time. Verstappen now starts his hot lap. Hamilton crosses the line. He puts himself up into first with the 1:13.104. 0.01 faster than his teammate. Piastri fastest in the middle sector, currently ahead of his teammate Lando Norris, coming through the final two corners past the wall of champions. Approaching that start finish line, he crosses the line and moves himself up to fourth. Magnussen, though, still ahead of him in third. Piastri now coming past the wall of champions, opens up his DRS, approaches that start finish line, crosses the line, and he goes fastest with a 1:12.462. Verstappen 0.4 down in the middle sector. Verstappen being noted for failing to follow the race director's instructions. Verstappen now coming through the final chicane, past the wall of champions, really close there. He crosses the line and goes second with a 1:13.084. Not able to match Piastri's lap time, but good enough on a set of used soft tyres. 10 laps remain of this session. Albon. Albon moves himself up into seventh place. Sargent down behind him in ninth. As now Sainz moves himself up into second place. Alonso now finishing up his lap time, coming past the wall of champions, opening up the DRS, approaching that start finish line, crosses it, and he goes second now with a 1:12.851. The second driver to join Piastri in the 1:12s for this session. Charles Leclerc now steals that away with a 1:12.7. George Russell, though, going even faster out on circuit. Purple first and second sector. As Jason Play says, what is going on with Perez? I'm sure everyone would like to know. George Russell now coming past the final two corners, past the wall of champions. Where will this put him? DRS open, cross the line, and he goes fastest with a 1:12.323. Looking like the best lap of the weekend now for George Russell on that lap time. 393 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to hit the like button as Max Verstappen gets held up a little bit. Verstappen getting held up by one of the Mercedes. Sargent feeling a little bit more comfortable in his car this weekend. 0.3 down on Sainz's time. TC saying Lewis had to oversteer on his lap. That would explain why he's a little bit down. Jason Play saying Mercedes won in third. If I'm seeing this right, which you certainly are. Piastri splitting the two of them right now in second place. Sargent finishes his lap time only good enough to get ahead of his teammate for 13th place. Williams looking like they have a little bit more speed here this race weekend, trying some new things on their car. Verstappen now starting his next hot lap. He's currently down in that elimination zone, certainly not where he wants to be with that incoming threat of rain. Jason asking, are Mercedes back? Well, we'll have to wait and see till the end of this qualifying session. Verstappen's up on Sainz's first sector. Coming through the middle sector now, DRS wide open through turn 8 and 9, beautifully through there. He's not taking an excursion over the grass like he did yesterday in the wet. Verstappen up on Sainz. Sainz is struggling to find pace around the circuit here this weekend. Rain being predicted in 9 minutes' time. Verstappen now breaking into the final 2 corners of 13 and 14. Now hurtling towards the start-finish line. Will this put him close enough? Only good enough for 9th place right now. .440 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're not already, as I see we've jumped up by a couple hundred subs during the stream. Leclerc now coming through the final 2 corners, down in the middle sector on his fastest lap time. Crosses the line half a second down on his personal best. Ferrari don't look like they're the most comfortable car out here today. Sainz is struggling down in 8th. Leclerc also seeming like he's struggling in 5th right now. We're seeing all of the drivers going out for their final runs. We're watching not Fernando Alonso, that is Lance Stroll on a brand new set of softs, as is Yuki Tsunoda. Looking like some issues though for the Williams car of Albon while they're trying to get the one tyre on. Just struggling to get a right rear onto this car. Brand new set of tyres, really struggling to get it attached though. Oh, big snap of oversteer for George Russell. Very close to the wall into turn 4. He comes onto the radio saying, holy moly, I had a big moment in turn 4. Just so close, drifting all the way out of turn 3 into 4. Russell still pushing out on circuit with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. TC saying the grip is certainly reducing now. It does seem to be that way, TC. As Verstappen gets a brand new set put onto his car now. Jason plays saying Red Bull have been struggling a lot lately and that he has subbed to the channel. Thank you very much for subbing to the channel. TC saying grip is reducing. Yes, that he is. And Pete saying, can you let us hear the cars? Unfortunately, we cannot, as that is covered by Formula One's copyright. Alex Albon marginally up on Max Verstappen's lap time at the moment. That is that cusp for the elimination zone. Lance Stroll improving on his lap time as well, 0.16 up on Max Verstappen's time. Verstappen is, though, out on a And now looking at Daniel Ricciardo trying to get himself out of that drop zone. Verstappen still sitting in the drop zone. Ricciardo 0.002 to Carlos Sainz, the driver he needs to beat. Lance Stroll approaching the start-finish line. He improves on his lap time for 5th place now. Drivers all desperately pushing to make sure that they're safe for the final qualifying session. Leclerc comes onto the radio being told, we're expecting some drops of rain at the checkered flag, just for your information. Verstappen is still on his outlap, though. He's about to start his final lap. He needs to get a clean lap in if he wants to get out of this qualifying 2 session. As we're waiting for him to finish up his lap time, 1 minute and 20 seconds remaining on the lap time on the board. Fighting the car through the middle sector. Three-tenths up on Logan Sargent, but a little bit of sliding as he comes out of the apex. Waiting to see where Verstappen will finish. Hamilton up in the middle sector. Verstappen now coming through 13 and 14. Little bit of oversteer. Fighting the car, getting so close to the wall of champions. He now approaches the start-finish line, crosses the line. That's good enough for 5th, and that should be good enough to get him into Q3. Just by the skin of his teeth in that Red Bull, looking so difficult in these closing stages of Q2. 30 seconds remaining as Hamilton crosses the line, and he goes even faster with the 1:11.979, the fastest lap time of the weekend. Mercedes with some great pace here this weekend. Carlos Sainz now approaching the start-finish line. Russell going even faster than Hamilton with a 1:11.742. Ooh, big snap of oversteer for Sainz as he comes out. Sainz is out, unfortunately, of the session, and Leclerc will be out as well. Albon up into P6. So both Ferraris eliminated from Q2. That is massive news. Both Ferraris eliminated from Q2. As Ollie Behrman gives the same reaction as all of us in the grid block, in the pit lane of Ferrari. Leclerc comes onto the radio. He is fuming. Just saying, am I? Oh, well, Leclerc comes onto the radio asking, are we out? Getting told yes, and he says, I won't comment there. 0.032 is the gap from Leclerc to Stroll. Nothing in between those two drivers. Sainz coming onto the radio saying it has been so difficult with no grip. It is going to be a very interesting race tomorrow. If we have some Ferraris fighting through the order, we could even get a Red Bull having to fight through the order tomorrow. Not just of Perez, but also of Verstappen. Julia Baum saying, as if my Sauber misery wasn't bad enough, Ferrari has to give me depression as well. Just normal Ferrari things, unfortunately. Just watching that oversteer moment from Carlos Sainz. So close. Maybe just a little bit of ego on the throttle as he comes through 13, sliding it through there, but marginally being able to hold it on and being able to keep it out of the Wall of Champions. Jason saying, have Mercedes and Ferrari swapped performances? I don't think so. I think it's just certain tracks suit other cars a little bit better. As just to go through the dropout zone once again, it is Leclerc, Sainz, Sargent, Magnussen, and Gasly eliminated from the Q2 session. It is now raining overhead in Montreal. They will now have a very difficult decision to make. Will they go out on the soft tyres? once again, or do they go out on the intermediates because of the rain? It is going to be a difficult decision to make now, as I said, just gauging where the grip will be out on circuit and with what tyre to choose. Just looking at the track dominance between Stroll and Leclerc, it is the straights that was able to give Stroll the upper edge here today and allow him to eliminate Charles Leclerc from that Q2 session. Lando Norris sitting comfortably in his car, waiting for him to go out on circuit again. Piggyback saying it is a crime making Tsunoda drive that racing bull. It certainly is at the moment, but that's not affecting him. He's being able to extract some phenomenal pace out of his B car. All the teams now scrambling to get possibly those intermediate tires ready for their cars. It's spitting out on circuit, but we're seeing the drivers being readied to go out on a set of softs, at least for Verstappen. So they're just going to have to hope that the intermediates, or the softs rather, are going to have enough pace to be able to take them through. Just watching a replay of Verstappen getting so close to the wall of champions. Just seeing the gap 1 centimeter to the wall of champions. That is just absolutely bum-clenchingly close as you approach that wall and just get within a centimeter of hitting it. Waiting for the drivers to get out onto circuit now, as we have a few minutes to go until we get the green light for the final qualifying session out here in Montreal, Canada. What an interesting qualifying it has been so far, with the drivers eliminated at the moment. Leclerc, Sainz, Sargent, Magnussen, Gasly, Perez, Bottas, Ocon, Hulkenberg, and just trying to see who's 20th. That would be Zhou Guanyu in 20th place. Fernando Alonso sitting in 8th right now. Or sorry, 9th right now. Where will he be able to go in this final session? He is quite good in the rain. We'll have to wait and see whether that will make things a little bit interesting here this afternoon, if that's going to come into play, or whether they'll be able to go out still on a set of slick tires, get 1 lap in as a banker, and then hope that is enough to take them to the end of qualifying this afternoon. 500 though of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and check out our channel partner BITDEFENDER down in the description below, as well as think about becoming a channel member. TC saying, I think Max will get 4th. His car doesn't look stable. He is certainly fighting around with it quite a lot here this afternoon. Hopefully they will be able to dial that in ahead of this final qualifying session. But at the moment, it does look like he is struggling. The rain overhead right now. Dark, dark clouds over this beautiful Montreal circuit. As we're seeing where the Mercedes are making up their lap time, it is mostly in the low speed corners. They make up 0.2 seconds alone in the low speed corners around this circuit. So clearly some of the upgrades working beautifully on that Mercedes car, being able to keep their average speed up around this circuit. It is such a flowing circuit, meaning that if you carry more speed into one corner, it allows you to continue that throughout the rest of your lap. Now hearing from the eliminated driver of Charles Leclerc, looking quite upset, asking what's wrong. He says it's just slow. It's been slow all day. He had a sensor issue this morning, which is annoying, and just not feeling as comfortable as he would like in the car right now, saying it's a tough session, and they've made a bit of a compromise in the setup of the car here today. As we now have the green light, we've got one of the McLarens leaving the grid box first. It is going to be a difficult race, though, for the Ferraris tomorrow, starting down in 11th and 12th. Hopefully, they will have opportunity to make some overtakes, especially with these long straights here. Leclerc still saying that it's going to be a bit of a miserable race, but yeah, don't know really what is going to happen ahead of us tomorrow. 11 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. As JP says, Formula 1 is getting really exciting again, with a different team looking like they can win at each race weekend these days, hoping for a Merc win tomorrow just to make things even more competitive. As Dirt says, Mark Marquez 93, you're watching the wrong sports, friend. Maybe join us next weekend when we are streaming the Moto GP once again. But you can, of course, continue to watch with us here at the end of this qualifying 3 session. 10 minutes and 46 seconds left to go as we're waiting for Oscar Piastri, almost said Lando Norris there, approaching the start-finish line to start his final couple of qualifying laps here in Q3. TC saying Ferraris are the second fastest team, or were the second fastest team. All of a sudden, they are the 5th fastest. The wind's possibly changed here, as it looks like the rain isn't really coming over as much as we were expecting. Piastri sliding a little bit around into turn 4, but still staying composed out on circuit. 20.4 is his first exit time. 536 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already, and like the video as well. Waiting for Piastri to come through the middle sector. His purple first sector has been stolen away from him. Purple second sector, though, for himself now. Piastri's been a driver that has rarely impressed me over his first season in Formula 1, and now in his second season has rarely been doing so well. Just watching a replay of Piastri through that 4th corner with a little bit of an oversteer. Verstappen, though, fastest in the first sector now. Massive amounts of oversteer for Piastri coming through 13 and 14 past the Wall of Champions. Now, Verstappen approaching that finish line, also really wide into the wall of near the Wall of Champions. Piastri's time a 1:12.7. Verstappen's time a 1:12.358. Brilliant for Verstappen. On a used tyre as well for Max Verstappen. Lando Norris goes 3rd fastest with a 1:13. Stroll now coming next across the line. Where will he put himself? JP saying someone is going to go into the wall tomorrow. So much sliding about certainly is going to happen, especially if we do get some rain coming into play. It is going to make it very, very difficult. Lance Stroll crosses the line. Where can he put himself? Up into 4th place for now. Alex Albon is going to be the next one across the line. He's still coming down that back straight. TC saying a great lap from Max. It certainly was. Alex Albon fighting the car a little bit through 14 past the Wall of Champions. He moves himself up into 5th ahead of Norris and Tsunoda. Norris and Tsunoda definitely able to find some more times in their cars right now. We now have George Russell going around the circuit. The faster of the 2 Mercedes here this weekend. Russell, Sandy saying, what is Merc waiting on? Nothing at the moment as they are going out around the circuit. 0.1 up in the first sector is George Russell. And Hamilton also up 0.165, and he steals that purple sector away from George Russell. Seven minutes remaining. Russell 0.4 up on Verstappen. This could take us into the 111s here. Where will Russell put himself now? He's got a little bit of traffic coming into 13 and 14. Hopefully they will stay well out of his way. They certainly do. They jump into the pits. Russell now finishes his lap time. Where will he put himself? He goes first with a 112 dead. 112 000. Can Hamilton improve? No, he can't. 112.280. Brilliant lap time from Russell, though, with 112 dead. Mara saying, what did I walk into and what is going on? It certainly has been one not to miss out here in Canada. Be sure to join us for the race tomorrow if you have missed any of this qualifying session, because just based off this, it is going to be a phenomenal race ahead of us. TC saying, come on, Lewis. Rod Brown saying, Villeneuve needs to shut up about Ricardo. Of course, he knows. Yeah, LOL. It certainly is not helping when you have a little bit of extra pressure being put on by the likes of Villeneuve, when you know the expectations that are being put on you. Jason saying, come on, Lewis. Now everyone in the next little bit of a lull coming into the pits. Ricardo, Norris, Tsunoda, Albon, Stroll, Alonso, and Verstappen all in the pits right now, putting on their final set of tyres with 5 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. Watching a replay of Oscar Piastri coming into the pits. What happened here for him? Oh, there was someone walking across the pit lane. So, oh, so close. Comes Lewis Hamilton through the wall of champions. Julia saying, Alex, our qualifying land on at the moment. What is going on? It is really difficult track conditions around this Montreal circuit because it is so cold, it's really windy, and there is a big threat of rain overhead. But not falling just yet. Verstappen sitting 0.3 down on those two Mercedes right now on that set of used mediums. He should go out, or used softs rather. He should go out on a brand new set for his final run. Piastri now out on circuit once again. Johan asking, is Lewis on for a return here? Mara asking, why are the Ferraris out? They just did not have the pace and were not able to get their cars hooked up enough in the qualifying 2 session, unfortunately. So they are out here today as Piastri is flying around the middle sector right now. Piastri coming through the hairpin. 3 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. The closing stages of qualifying here in Canada. 710 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you aren't already, and hit the like button while you're at it. Piastri coming past the wall of champions. He goes fastest in the final sector and puts himself into second place. 0.103 down on Russell's time. Much better, but not able to match what Russell has been able to do out on circuit. Lando Norris now 0.076 down on Russell in the middle sector. Could he be able to put something a little bit special out of the hatch here? Norris approaching the final chicane on circuit. As Mara says, Canada really pulled an Uno reverse card. It certainly has. Lando Norris approaching the start-finish line. Crosses the line now, and he puts himself second with a 112.021. 200ths of a second down on George Russell's lap time. 2 minutes and 20 seconds now remaining as the Red Bull of Max Verstappen is getting released on a brand new set of soft tyres. Lewis Hamilton, though, who has the tied amount of most wins with Michael Schumacher around the circuit, is also not one to be discounted. Julia saying if the conditions tomorrow will be similar to what we saw so far this weekend, it is going to be really interesting. I think it will come down to who will be able to keep it out of the wall. Best wall, certainly that is. One of the more difficult things to do around the circuit, such close walls. As TC says, Russell is Mr. Saturday. Stroll 0.2 down in the first sector now. Really fighting with the car as he comes through 6 and 7. Through turn 8 and 9 now. Desperately trying to out-qualify his teammate Fernando Alonso. Every single driver out now on a brand new set of tyres. Max Verstappen preparing to start his final lap now. As Stroll gets a little bit of slipstream through 13 and 14. This should help him as he comes across the line. Where will he go? Across the line, only good enough to get into 6, but that is where he wants to be, ahead of his teammate. Daniel Ricciardo is going to be one of the next push laps to come across the line. Through turn 13 and 14. Can he out-qualify his teammate for only the second time this season as Verstappen's going even faster out of the circuit? He moves up to P4. Brilliant lap time for Daniel Ricciardo. Fernando Alonso also still pushing out on circuit. Personal best for him. He puts himself now up into P5 behind Daniel Ricciardo. Verstappen pushing, approaching the middle sector now. 0.053 down on Russell though. The margin so close between the first 3 drivers. Who will take that top spot though? Verstappen will be desperate as he's coming through towards 13 and 14. This could be where he makes or breaks it here today. Checkered flag flying. Verstappen coming past the wall of champions. Can he do enough? Only good enough. He matches Russell's time. Matches it to the exact millisecond. Only good enough for second place because George Russell put that lap time down first. So Verstappen will be on the second position in the start of the race tomorrow as George Russell does not improve on his lap time on his final push lap, and neither does Lewis Hamilton. What an extraordinary qualifying session that has been. Max Verstappen second place, George Russell first, Norris down in third, Piastri fourth, Ricciardo fifth, Alonso sixth, Hamilton seventh, Tsunoda eighth, Stroll ninth, and Alex Albon in 10th. What an interesting qualifying that has been out here in Canada. Made very difficult by the cold conditions and the threat of rain, of course. As just to go through our grid order once again, George Russell takes the top spot with a 112.000. Verstappen matches that lap time to the absolute millisecond. Toto Wolff looking secretly very happy for himself. Third place is Lando Norris, 0.021 seconds slower than Verstappen and Russell. Piastri then in fourth. Daniel Ricciardo in fifth. Brilliant qualifying for him here today. Alonso sixth, Hamilton seventh, Tsunoda eighth, Stroll ninth, Albon 10th, Leclerc 11th, Sainz 12th, Sargent 13th, Magnussen 14th, Gasly 15th, Perez 16th, Bottas 17th, Ocon 18th, 19th is Hülkenberg, and in 20th place we have Zhou Guanyu as Russell goes mad over the radio as he is celebrating his qualifying pole position here today. Brilliant race ahead of us tomorrow. Be sure to join us for that. And before you all jump off the stream, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. I've been Reese here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to check out our channel partner BITDEFENDER, linked in the description below. Thank you very much once again for joining me down in the comment section. To all of the regulars such as Jason Plays, Julia, TC, Now roll, Old Man, Rulin, Diwe, Mara, thank you very much for joining me here today. Be sure to join me once again tomorrow for the race here in Canada. I've been Reese. Thank you very much for joining me on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.
Hello and welcome, my name is Reese and today I'm going to be speaking to you about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. Forever Sports is proudly supported by BITDEFENDER, one of the global leaders in cybersecurity. Stay safe with the most consistently top-rated antivirus of the last 10 years and counting. To protect yourself from cyber attacks, protect your browsing and personal information, and so much more, get BITDEFENDER. With BITDEFENDER's premium VPN, digital privacy and freedom is as easy as flicking on a light switch. Bank, stream, and download without exposing a single byte of personal information. Unblock your favorite streaming sites and get access to content that you want to watch on up to 10 devices today. Effective, invisible, and amazingly affordable. Use the link in the description to get started.
Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for some huge news. The FIA have officially released unveiled the regulations for 2026 and beyond, which features more agile cars and active aerodynamics. In their words, not mine. Expect the cars to get smaller, faster, more overtaking, more sustainable. That is the plan with the new regulations, which will come into effect in 2026. So one more year before we really see these come into effect, but expect to see a very significant shift in how we know Formula One, and hopefully we'll solve a lot of the issues we're seeing in Formula One, especially with regards to the lack of competitiveness and the lack of overtaking we've seen in the last couple of races. For example, Monaco, where basically the grid almost finished exactly how it started. Before we get into exactly what the regulations are and what the changes are, please do smash like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel as well. Right, so we knew that the power units were obviously going to change. That was released a couple of years ago, but the F1 Formula, or the Formula One governing body, FIA, has officially unveiled the more regulations and sort of the full regulation of what's going to change. It still needs to be ratified and voted on by the World Motorsport Council, which will take place on 28th of June, but you can't expect it to go through. The basic summary is as follows. More agile cars, and they're going to be made lighter by 50 kgs. They're going to be feature a redesigned power unit, which is going to increase the battery power. And there's going to be an even split between internal combustion engine and the electric power, and 100% use of sustainable fuels. A very important thing, when you think about how maybe, environmentally unfriendly Formula One is with regards to fossil fuels, the travel, for example. And they've had a very big shift to try and make it as sustainable as possible so we can continue to enjoy the sport whilst it doesn't wreck the environment. And credit to them, they put their hands up and they very much acknowledge that they have to adapt and they have to change things. And they are taking steps forward. Another very cool idea is active aerodynamics, which will incorporate a movable front and rear wing, which will allow for closer racing, apparently. They're going to be looking at increased overtaking opportunities through the introduction of a new similar sort of thing to a DRS, a system which will give the driver a short burst of additional power if they are within 1 second of the car in front of them. Also, very importantly, with these changes, that they are making more robust rules with regards to safety, and then with the sort of the sustainable issues over there. So basically, the FIA single-seat technical director, Nicholas Tombazis, has said as follows with regards to the regulations. He says, with this set of regulations, the FIA has sought to develop a new generation of cars that are fully in touch with the DNA of Formula One. Cars that are light, supremely fast and agile, but which also remains at the cutting edge of technology. And to achieve this, we have worked towards what we call a nimble car concept. So looking for a car which is a bit smaller and a bit more nimble in and around the track to provide more opportunities to overtake and the likes. In terms of the FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayman, saying today the FIA is defining a hugely exciting future for the pinnacle of motorsport with the launch of a new set of regulations for the 2026 FIA Formula One Championship and beyond. Let's go through some of the various changes, shall we? So in terms of the power units, obviously they are set to deliver more power. The hybrid unit has dropped from 550 to 560 kilowatts to 400 kilowatts. However, the battery has risen significantly from 120 kilowatts to 350, which is an almost 300% increase in electric power. There'll be less from the sort of the combustion, but far more from the battery itself. So the amount of energy that can be recuperated during the braking phase is doubled per lap. The new regulations has also led to commitments from existing suppliers, so a record 6 companies which will be doing power units. It'll include Ferrari, Mercedes, and Renault, and it's also enticed apparently Honda to return, and then obviously Audi and Ford will also be doing power units through a partnership with the Red Bull powertrain. So in terms of the actual car design, cars are going to be lighter and smaller. So with regards to the weight, there's going to be 30 kgs shed potentially. 2026 cars are going to have a minimum weight of 768 kgs compared to the 798 kgs, which is where it is currently and has been the case since 2022. In terms of the wheelbase, it has been reduced by 200 millimeters to 3,400 millimeters, while the width has been cut from 100 millimeters but cut by 100 millimeters to 1900. So they have reduced the both the width and the sort of the length of the wheelbase itself. Apparently, they say that the downforce as a result has been reduced by 30% and drag has been reduced by 55%. The 18-inch wheel size will remain, but the width of the tires will be reduced by 25 mils and the rears by 30 mils. Compared to the current generation of cars. In terms of the other sort of the aerodynamic innovations, this is where it obviously gets quite interesting. So it says that the FIA says the 2026 cars will be switchable between 2 configurations. One that will minimize fuel consumption, and the other one which will maximize corner performance. The active aerodynamics will involve a movable rear wing and a movable front wing, so to try and sort of get the best as we go. So you can kind of have different configurations depending on where you are on the track and stuff like that. The idea is that this will enable more greater cornering speeds and more sort of straight line speed as well. So you don't have to necessarily like, okay, cool, this track's got a lot of different corners and a very tough cornering track, therefore we need to sort of set that up the car like that. You can basically, your car will be able to do both. You'll be able to corner quickly as well as get that straight line speed. You don't have to compromise one for the other. The idea is also you're going to get that 1 second. If you're within 1 second of a car, you will get a sort of a boost from the power unit itself. Apparently, that's going to be similar to sort of the DRS idea. There'll be specific zones where that will potentially kick in. Once again, there is another overtaking aid that has been added to the regulations. And then just very quickly, they've talked about the push for greater safety. So they've introduced a 2-stage nose design, which is basically to stop things flying off. And they've also done a look at the protection around the driver and the fuel cell area, and basically just making the cars a bit safer. And then finally, the big thing is over there is that it says the Formula One power units are already the most efficient in the world. The F1 and FIA's pursuit of reaching net zero carbon by 2030. The 2026 power units will run on fully sustainable fuels. So no more fossil fuels, basically, is the plan. More electric power, basically. So there'll be a shift towards 50% electric and 50% thermal power distribution. That's a lot to get through. That's a lot to try and comprehend. We'll have to wait and see what this looks like. But basically, the summary is cars that can adapt to corners and straights. So you're not gonna you don't just screw your front wing in, adjust it, and say right, that's the position. They will be able to sort of change. Basically, they're going to be active based. The car's going to be slightly smaller. The wheels are going to be slightly smaller. The car's going to be lighter, and they're going to be set up more for more opportunities to overtake. So the idea is to get back to racing. I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that they are trying to get these cars back to being, wheel-to-wheel racing, competitive, trying reducing the massive difference we're seeing from, a Kick Sauber and a Red Bull, the likes of that. To try and, all these regulations come in to try and sort of make it more competitive. We want to basically see a field where, there can potentially be 10 winners on the day. and not just, 3-4 cars who are really going to contend. Let me know if you think it's going to make any difference. Which of these regulations excites you? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash a like, comment on the video, subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve, and I'll chat to you soon.
Hello and welcome, my name is Reese, and today I'm going to be speaking to you about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. Forever Sports is proudly supported by BITDEFENDER, one of the global leaders in cybersecurity. Stay safe with the most consistently top-rated antivirus of the last 10 years and counting. To protect yourself from cyber attacks, protect your browsing and personal information, and so much more, get BITDEFENDER. With BITDEFENDER's premium VPN, digital privacy and freedom is as easy as flicking on a light switch. Bank, stream, and download without exposing a single byte of personal information. Unblock your favorite streaming sites and get access to content that you want to watch on up to 10 devices today. Effective, invisible, and amazingly affordable. Use the link in the description to get started.
Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Reese and today I am bringing you the Canadian Grand Prix. It is quite wet out on circuit at the moment, waiting to see whether they're going to be starting on the extreme wets or whether they will be going on the intermediates from the start. We're obviously waiting for the official verdict from the FIA whether it will be a wet start, a rolling start, or whether they will allow them to do a standing start. It is starting to dry out on circuit. It's no longer rain is no longer falling, but the track surface is still quite wet. These cars should be able to clear that water relatively quickly, but we'll have to wait and see what the FIA decides to do with the starting procedure for this race. But it is going to be very, very exciting indeed. The two Saubers, though, for this race will be starting from the pit lane. They decided to make some changes to their front wings for the start of the race today, and that means they will be starting from the pits. Not necessarily what they would have been wanting for today, but they feel that it will make a difference for their race pace here. The Red Bull mechanics looking like they're getting their cars ready. Of course, Max Verstappen in second place today to start this race, and Sergio Perez all the way down in 18th place. Not where they would have wanted to be this afternoon, but it will certainly be an interesting one ahead of us. To go over our starting grid for this Canadian Grand Prix, it is George Russell in pole position with Max Verstappen alongside him. Certainly will be looking out for him as he will be looking to take a lunge down into that first corner. Then we have Lando Norris, another great driver in the wet, starting in third. Oscar Piastri in fourth. Daniel Ricciardo in fifth. He would have been hoping for a bit more of a straightforward and dry race here today, but he will certainly be put through his paces this afternoon with Fernando Alonso behind him. Lewis Hamilton then behind Fernando Alonso in seventh. Then Yuki Tsunoda in eighth, Lance Stroll ninth, Alex Albon 10th, Charles Leclerc in 11th place with Carlos Sainz in 12th, Logan Sargent 13th, Magnussen 14th, Gasly 15th, Sergio Perez, as I said, starting in 16th, Nico Hulkenberg 17th, Ocon 18th, Bottas 19th, and Zhou Guanyu 20th place. It will be an interesting start here, that is for sure, as we have a lot of our regulars joining in on the stream now. TC saying good evening, the Roll Pojita as well, saying hello everybody from a chilly Josie. It certainly is quite cold here this evening as I've got my hoodie on. Larry saying hi from cold Cape Town as well. Thank you very much for joining in on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already one of those who have been watching alongside with me for the last couple of weeks and months. And if you have been joining us for a while, think about becoming one of our channel members. You can find that linked in the description below alongside one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER, who can help you out with all of your cyber security needs. We're waiting for the credits and the titles to start rolling ahead of this race with 5 minutes left to go until the green light is shown for the formation lap. Those titles are now rolling as we wait towards the start of this really exciting race out here in Canada. It did look like some rain was on the way, so it could be quite a dynamic race in terms of strategy this afternoon if they are indeed going to start on those intermediate tires, which a lot of them did their recce lap on just a couple of minutes ago. As Robert Stallard says hi from the Isle of Man, thank you very much for joining. As we're just looking at some stats about this 9th round of the 24-round Formula One season in 2024, joining you from the AWS Canadian Grand Prix. So just going over the times from yesterday's qualifying, it was absolutely just captivating completely all the way through as Max Verstappen and George Russell put in the identical lap time. Track distance is 4.3 kilometers around the circuit. 70 race laps are going to be had here today. The race lap record is held by Valtteri Bottas with a 1:13. The top speed is 349 kilometers an hour with 14 turns and an elevation of 5.2 meters. If it were to be dry, the soft, medium, and hard compounds are the C5, 4, and 3 this weekend, the softest in the Pirelli range. But it is looking like we're going to be running more on the intermediate and full wet tyre here this afternoon, as we're seeing those clouds heading closer towards this Formula One circuit. Hopefully they'll stay away and we could get some mixed conditions as we're going through the grid once again from the back to the front. Valtteri Bottas and Zhou Guanyu starting 20th and 19th. Then we have Nico Hulkenberg in 17th, Esteban Ocon in 18th with the penalty that he received. Sergio Perez 16th, Pierre Gasly in 15th place. Sergio Perez really not having a great qualifying session yesterday afternoon. Kevin Magnussen 14th, Logan Sargent having a good afternoon in 13th place there, starting on the grid. Carlos Sainz in 12th, Charles Leclerc in 11th. Really out of position here this afternoon. Hopefully they will have a bit of a better afternoon in the wet. Alex Albon in 10th, Lance Stroll then in 9th place, having found some great pace around the circuit here at his home track. Yuki Tsunoda in 8th, Lewis Hamilton in 7th, also looking quite punchy around the circuit. He will be one to watch. He loves the wet. Speaking of a driver that loves the wet, though, that will be Fernando Alonso starting in 6th. He has Daniel Ricciardo on the grid alongside with him in 5th. Oscar Piastri then the first of the two McLarens. He's in 4th, then Lando Norris in 3rd. Max Verstappen then will be starting alongside George Russell in 2nd, with George Russell, of course, on pole position. Max Verstappen will have the inside line, though, into turn 1. So if he makes that lunge, George Russell might have to be a little bit cautious and have to dive out the way. Old Madru, one of our regulars, saying hello all, freezing on the east coast of Australia, as Gareth Peter says, also evening all from Bloemfontein. 70 trips past the wall of champions. Let's go. It is looking quite dark overhead, but we will get racing nonetheless. It is starting to rain once again. The raindrops are coming down. The ponchos are being put on once again. So we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen. As Stefan Erdmann just gloating there a little bit, saying it's warm in Germany. The sun's still shining. It's certainly not in South Africa. It's nice and dark here and chilly, as we're watching those two Saubers still in their pit boxes as we get ready for the formation lap. Charles Leclerc getting lowered down, as are the Mercedes cars now. Lindy, we're saying hello, everybody. Max Verstappen, though, he will certainly be eyeing his odds out here today, as he will be looking to steal that first position away from George Russell. I got it wrong, unfortunately. Max Verstappen is not on the inside line. He is on the outside into turn 1. That does make a little bit more sense that the pole man would be on the inside. But it does look like the Mercedes are deciding to go on those inters, as are the rest of the grid. So not full wet. That could mean that we do get a standing start for the start of this race here. All of the personnel now clear off the grid as we're waiting for that green light to be shown. That big Rolex clock now ticking towards the hour there. 2 o'clock local time in Canada, 8 o'clock South African time, as now we are getting the front runners starting to pull out, as we're seeing the rain falling once again over this Canadian circuit. Max Verstappen loves this type of weather. What can George Russell do to fend from him into turn 1? TC saying Max will take Russell early on. He is good in the wet. But how is the new Red Bull in these sorts of conditions? Red Bull fundamentally are normally good in the wet, but they've had some issues this season. Could they continue to be able to challenge, or will they struggle a little bit here today? Jason Plays in the comment section once again saying, who has everyone got on winning here this afternoon? I saw you giving some odds a little bit earlier. Let me check what that was. The odds I got for the win is 20% Max, 20% Russell, 20% Lando, and 20% on Lewis. So that will be very interesting. Be sure to let me know in the comment section who you are supporting, as well as let us know in the poll that we're currently running who will win the Canadian Grand Prix. Russell with 21%, Verstappen with 51%, Norris 14%, and Hamilton with 14% as well there. Watching the drivers now come around the hairpin at the top end of the circuit, now approaching that long straight towards the start-finish line. Julia Bohm saying Haas are the only ones on the wet. It could either screw them or massively give them a good advantage. Daniel Ricciardo being told the sun of rain coming should last for around 10 to 15 minutes. So they're going to be hoping that these intermediate tyres are able to clear enough rain to continue out on circuit. Looking at the current Constructors' Championships, Red Bull leading with 276 points from Ferrari with 252. They will be hoping to lead and eke out their lead from the Ferraris once again this weekend. Cora in the comment section saying, evening guys, thank you very much for joining. As we have 266 of you watching alongside with me, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you are new. As we're waiting for all of these cars now to get lined up on the grid for the start of this race, we see the two Saubers leaving their grid boxes. As Jason plays saying, Albon out-qualified Perez and both the Ferraris. JP saying this is going to be a mad race, more rain in 10 to 15. It's going to be absolutely scenes. So we're waiting for the start of this race now as the end of the grid start getting into their grid boxes. That Aston Martin medical car at the back of the grid as well now, waiting for the green flag at the rear. That is now being waved as the Alpine gets into their grid box. Lights now starting to be shown. 3, 4, and 5 lights now illuminated. Out and away we go. Max Verstappen, does he get a good enough start there? He looks like he's struggling a little bit. George Russell getting a better start there. So much spray being raised up by all of these cars so far neat into turn 1. Now coming through turn 2, still neat and tidy. Max Verstappen not being able to reel in George Russell just yet. Yellow flag in sector 1 though, waiting to see green flag shown once again. Possibly just a little bit of contact between drivers as George Russell is slowly running away from Max Verstappen. So much spray being kicked up by these high downforce cars, of course, in the ground effect era now of Formula 1. Really sucking up all of the water from underneath. They tried to trial some wheel covers to help with the spray, but that was not able to help the spray at all in their tests with Ferrari at Maranello. But drivers still following each other really closely at the moment. Max Verstappen must be only a couple milliseconds away. 0.9 is what I'm being shown here on my timing boards. Now just getting opened up to a second. Clearly the wets are working for those two Haas's. Magnussen having made up 5 positions on this opening lap. Now coming and putting under pressure on Magnussen as one of the Ferraris goes so deep into that final corner, almost taking out the Haas and the Aston Martin of Stroll. Charles Leclerc going so deep there, now coming under pressure from Yuki Tsunoda. Daniel Ricciardo dropped down to 7th place. Russell still in 1st position here, as now Albon is coming under pressure. Magnussen now past Daniel Ricciardo for 7th. Hulkenberg also starting to make up some positions, clearly choosing the better tyre here for the race start. The wets being the better tyre with the falling rain. Verstappen falling further away from George Russell. 2.3 seconds is the gap from the Red Bull to the Mercedes car. Magnussen now throwing a deep lunge onto Hamilton. He gets 6th place. Brilliant lunge from him. Really finding great pace out on these wet tyres. You have to think that they are going to get into the top 5 within a couple of minutes here. Russell coming onto the radio, being told this level of rain is the worst we expect. So they're hoping that it will clear up soon. Now as Magnussen trying to go around the outside of Fernando Alonso. Will he be able to make a lunge now towards the Wall of Champions? He does go for a lunge into the braking zone, getting his nose ahead, and does get ahead for the Wall of Champions. Brilliant moves from Kevin Magnussen to now get top 5. What did I say? Spray, though, being pushed up from these cars so high above the circuit and just lingering around as Max Verstappen now 2.5 seconds down on the race lead of George Russell. Magnussen finding some phenomenal pace out on circuit. His next driver up the road is Oscar Piastri, and he's already all over the rear diffuser. As now we have Nico Hulkenberg up into the top 10, getting past Lance Stroll. Clearly, those full wet tyres being the absolute best decision for the Hasses. Hulkenberg having made up 8 places, Magnussen with 9 positions at the start in only 3 laps. Brilliant strategic call from the Hasses. Verstappen 2.6 seconds behind George Russell now, as Kevin Magnussen putting a lot of pressure all over the rear of Oscar Piastri. Verstappen also not running away from Lando Norris at the moment. Old Man Rouge saying exciting action already as Lewis Hamilton trying to take a different line to gain more grip ahead of Lewis Hamilton, as now Kevin Magnussen gets past Oscar Piastri before the long straight. He gets past him just after the hairpin as Oscar Piastri tries to hold on to the back of him, but that Haas has just so much more pace on those full wet tyres. 368 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you are not already, and hit that like button while you are at it. As we're watching Kevin Magnussen cutting his way through the field, 3.3 seconds is his interval to get to Lando Norris ahead of him. FIA steward saying no further investigation for Gasly and Perez for a turn 2 collision at the start of this race. Perez not making any gains, stuck down in 17th position at the moment. Sainz as well, not making up any positions right now, stuck in 14th with Leclerc also not doing anything special in 11th. Watching from the visor of Nico Hulkenberg right now, chasing down Lewis Hamilton for 7th position. Leclerc coming onto the radio now saying we're seeing something strange on the engine side. We are looking at it. Keep pushing. Not a good radio call for the Ferrari of Leclerc if he has a potential engine issue here today. Julia saying, love how everybody is turning into Haas fans right now. They so deserve it. They certainly do. Max Verstappen still not being able to make any inroads on the race leader, George Russell's gap at the moment of 3.1 seconds. As Kevin Magnussen is chasing down Lando Norris. Magnussen now chasing to get onto those podium positions. Will the race stay wet throughout to allow the Haas's to really profit from that strategic call, or will it dry out to the point that people have to go onto some slick tyres? Leclerc onto the radio. Just being told they're feeling weird things on the exit, but to keep pushing at the moment. Not feeling very comfortable in the cars. Logan Sargent is falling down the order, but jumps back up once again. I think that might have been a timing error, as Kevin Magnussen sets the fastest lap time of the race. Nico Hulkenberg still chasing down Lewis Hamilton for 7th place. EJ saying only Haas have chosen wet, and it pays the dividends. It certainly has at the moment, with Kevin Magnussen promoted all the way up to 4th place and Nico Hulkenberg well within the points in 8th, chasing down Lewis Hamilton. Leonardo Longhi also just saying what I was thinking, that they're shocked that nobody in the back tried to pit for wet after seeing Haas's really fast pace. I guess they just lose way too much track time if they do come into the pits. Possibly just waiting for someone to make a mistake, then they will be able to dive into the pits and make that strategic change. Lobby Ho just asking what happened with the Hasses at the start. They're certainly finding a great amount of pace out on circuit. They are the only cars on full wet tyres, the rest on intermediates, and it is certainly paying off for the Haas's here today, finding some phenomenal pace on circuit. As Verstappen now has set the fastest lap of the race, now eating away at George Russell's lap time. 2.4 seconds is the gap between those two, as the sun is now shining over the circuit. This can now start playing into the intermediate runners. As Leclerc is now told, people on the inters are now going faster than the people on full wets. So the first half of the track is wet and the second half is into conditions. So it should be drying out relatively quickly with the sun being overhead as well. So we could get the swap over to slick tires, possibly maybe 15 to 20 laps into the session. Just waiting to see, as we now have a yellow flag into sector 2 as we're seeing Sargent falling down the order. Sargent looks like he is out. He is still keeping the car running though, so not out here, maybe just running a little bit long by the looks of things. Yellow flag in sector 2 still showed, as he is now back out on circuit. Good for Logan Sargent being able to keep his car running. Green flag shown once again. Fastest lap now for George Russell, and once again for Max Verstappen. A 1:32.6 set for him. Lindy was saying a shame as Haas's happy hour seems to be drawing to a close. It was fun while it lasted. Hope Haas drivers can finish in the points. As now Lewis Hamilton is trying to go on the inside of Fernando Alonso into turn 1, but not able to make it work as he now goes wide and cuts the chicane. He's going to go ahead of Fernando, but he's going to have to give that position back. He does hold out, and Fernando Alonso goes past him before turn 3. Big snap, though, for Fernando as he attempts to go around Lewis. Mistakes now being shown from the top drivers. We're seeing a dry groove being shown on circuit now, as Kevin Magnussen still being able to stay within about of those top 3. 2.1 seconds, as Hülkenberg also sticking all over the back of Hamilton and Alonso, waiting to see what's going to happen in this battle between the two. Leclerc asking on the radio, how much am I losing down the straights? Being told quite a bit, but keep pushing, saying, I don't want this answer when I'm asking, please tell me. Then answered with half a second. That is a huge amount of time to lose in the straights. We're now seeing the difference between the full wet tires and the intermediates, as Hülkenberg is really starting to fall all over the back of Hamilton and Alonso, losing out quite a bit of pace as George Russell sets the fastest lap time once again. Verstappen 2.5 seconds behind him, as now the first Haas of Magnussen dives into the pits to change his tires. Getting put onto intermediates. They weren't ready for him. They were not ready for him. Slow pit stop. Very disappointing last second call for him. 8.6 seconds in the pits, unfortunately. That will undo so much of his good work that he has done. Magnussen falling down the order. He should come out in about 14th, possibly. He is now on the pit exit. Let's see where he comes out. 13th at the moment, could get taken for 14th. Old Man Roo saying it's early days, changing conditions will shake things up. They certainly could here today. We still do not know what could happen in the next half an hour or so. Watching alongside with George Russell coming through the first sector now. Lindy, we're saying Magnussen's 8.6 second pit stop is a pain. Geez, eating away at Magnussen's efforts. Certainly is. Had a brilliant effort in that first stint, but all getting undone by that very, very slow pit stop. Oh, just looking at the incident that happened at the start of this race, a lot of Red Bull front wing going all over the circuit there. Perez going so slowly, but gets, I think, just squished a bit by Esteban Ocon. Just watching, I think this is Logan Sargent coming into the first corner at the start. Oh, so close to taking out so many people there. But you can just see from that visor cam how terrible the visibility is in these cars. EJ saying all of Magnussen's hard work has been spoiled. It certainly has been. Watching the replay of what happened to Logan Sargent that brought out that yellow flag, he just, completely locked up the brakes. Did he hit the wall though? Ever so slightly, not able to break it though. So lucky that he wasn't hitting it too hard there, but that would have unraveled a lot of time from him, now sitting 10 seconds behind Zhou Guanyu in last place. His teammate Alex Albon is all the way up in 12th position, 1.9 seconds off the back of Yuki Tsunoda. Daniel Ricciardo being noted for a false start. Very interesting to see. There's Lewis Hamilton now all over the back of Fernando Alonso. What can he do as they come down the start-finish straight? Max Verstappen sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:30. 1.6 seconds now behind George Russell. Leclerc saying it is impossible to overtake with the issue, to be honest. Then getting told, I know. That's really, really helpful radio exchanges that is going on between the Ferrari pit wall and their driver here today. Nothing special and nothing we haven't seen in the past, unfortunately. As we're still watching Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton battling it out for 6th place. Top 4 still as they left at the start of this race off the grid. Max Verstappen still trying to hunt down George Russell at the front. 1.2 seconds now is the gap between the two of them. Russell going a little bit deep into the hairpin. Could this allow Verstappen to eat back away at him a little bit? Verstappen really liking these interchanging conditions. 1.2 seconds is that gap between Verstappen and Russell, now coming through the chicane by the Wall of Champions. The dry line becoming so apparent around the circuit now as Verstappen sets another fastest lap of the race, a 1:29.2. TC saying Lewis's race is ruined, getting held up by Alonso, who is blocking well. Certainly is at the moment. 1.2 seconds, 1.3 seconds is the gap between them, as Verstappen is now almost within a second of George Russell. This could be very interesting. Verstappen enjoying these conditions, sliding his car around beautifully. Now within a second, 0.7 seconds is all that separates these two. Now falling out again, 1.2 from Verstappen to Russell. Still not able to go on the slicks yet, though, as we're seeing a big bunching up of drivers from Hulkenberg to Tsunoda. Jay and Seo is just saying with these top 10 positions, the Constructors' Championship is getting closer and exciting. It certainly is at the moment, getting very, very exciting with all of these cars being so competitive and interchanging between race weekends, as we're seeing the Ferraris fighting it out down in the midfield here today. Sainz chasing down Alex Albon and Leclerc chasing down Lance Stroll. Verstappen closing down that gap once again, 1.2 seconds from himself to Russell. As we're seeing, is that Ricciardo all over Hulkenberg? It is Ricciardo all over Hulkenberg. Will he be able to make a lunge here? Verstappen coming onto the radio, being given a weather update. Expecting another short rain cell of around 5 minutes in about 15 laps, as now Daniel Ricciardo pulls out ahead of Nico Hulkenberg for 7th position. Brilliant overtake before that chicane, before the Wall of Champions. Track conditions now being properly intermediate, but as Max Verstappen has been told, there is another cell of weather approaching them that should be raining down for about 5 minutes, but that could throw another spanner in the works. 0.9 seconds from Verstappen to Russell. Now opened up again to over a second. Verstappen chasing down George Russell, now coming into the hairpin. Russell still coming under pressure from Verstappen behind as they come towards that wall of champions chicane. Julia saying, not sure if it's doing Hülkenberg any good not to pit at the moment, as Verstappen is 0.8 seconds behind Russell into that chicane now, coming down towards the start-finish line. As Norris has the current fastest lap of the race. Verstappen still closing down in on George Russell. Old Man Roo saying, go Danny Ricciardo. .7 seconds now from Verstappen to Russell. Verstappen, we know, is a brilliant driver in interchanging conditions, really finding some great pace now over George Russell. 0.5 seconds behind him, as Daniel Ricciardo has been given a penalty for I think it's for a race start infringement. As Russell now being told, expecting another rain shower in about 20 minutes. Tell me what you'd like me to do then. These tires are going to wear very quickly. Then getting told, just be careful and make them last. As now we have Hülkenberg into the pits, getting put onto intermediates. A lot better than what was the pit stop for his teammate Kevin Magnussen. Russell needs to defend aggressively, says TC. He certainly will be needing to, as Verstappen is still putting pressure all over the back of him. A second is what separates the two of them right now. Verstappen coming through the chicane at the end of the circuit, as now we're seeing Lewis Hamilton really all over the back of Fernando Alonso. Alonso going a little bit wide into the hairpin at the top of the circuit. Let's see what Lewis Hamilton can do to reel him in. 0.4 seconds is the gap. 0.3 now towards that chicane. Will Hamilton be able to continue his momentum and be able to take another lunge towards turn one? Let's see what he can do now. Half a second is what separates them. Russell on the radio. I think it will probably be slick tires within 20 minutes, is what he says, as now Verstappen is all over the back of him. Half a second now is Verstappen's gap to the back of Russell. Still very slippery out on circuit, as we're seeing from these top two drivers, really weaving all over to try and cool down their tires onto the wet, and then they are able to really push on the drier sectors where their tires start to overheat. Verstappen 0.6 down on Russell as they come down the final back straight. Not far away from slicks at the moment, as the dry line is so apparent out on circuit, but they need to keep these intermediates going because there is rain in about another 18 minutes time. We're currently on lap 15 of 70, as Lando Norris has set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:26.8. Verstappen all over the back of George Russell once again as they come towards turn 3. Norris's lap time of 1:26.8. Brilliant lap time for himself. Verstappen once again all over the rear of George Russell. Will he make a lunge into the next braking zone? What will he do? Still so wet, as Verstappen is all over the back of him. But Verstappen just lights up the rear on the exit, and that allows Russell to just open up that gap to half a second once again. But now Lando Norris is starting to reel in these two. Just becoming so difficult as this track starts to dry up. The dry line really being shown all over the place now, as the majority of the track is dry. Verstappen weaving all over the place to find any sort of moisture to cool down his intermediate tires, which will be screaming with the heat right now. 0.6 seconds as Norris is 4 seconds down on Verstappen. Will Verstappen make a lunge towards turn 1? No, he doesn't, but gets so close to the back of George Russell. Lando Norris, though, starting to reel in these two. Still another 15 minutes or so, though, to this second cloudburst. Will they be able to hold on to these intermediates for that long? Norris catching them so much in the first sector at the moment. It's Verstappen sliding all the way through. Losing a little bit of time now. Verstappen to Norris, 2.8 seconds. 500 watching alongside with me at the moment. Thank you very much for joining on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to hit that like button, as this battle is really brewing between Verstappen and George Russell here in Canada. As McLaren are also looking to come into play in the next couple of laps, with George Russell really chasing down the top two. Rain is expected in 13 minutes time, though. Will they be able to hold on to these intermediates long enough? Verstappen still chasing down and taking so much curb there towards the wall of champions, having to double correct it as they come out the exit there. It is so dry coming towards that start finish line as Norris sets another fastest lap time. Oh, as Max Verstappen goes wide into turn one. That's going to make him come under so much pressure from Lando Norris now. Uncharacteristic mistake from Max Verstappen, now making him fall to 2.2 seconds behind George Russell. He has that time to make up once again and is falling into the clutches of Lando Norris. Just showing how tricky it is out on circuit here today. Watching this mistake from him as he comes into turn one. Just comes onto the white line a little bit too much, carrying too much speed, gets sent over the grass. Lucky he is able to recover well enough. As Verstappen now has Lando Norris all over his rear wing. 2.9 seconds now is his gap to George Russell in first place. 3 seconds now as he is starting to defend aggressively from Lando behind. The Red Bulls comfortable defense and attack for first place now all falling apart as Lando Norris is starting to reel in Max Verstappen. The track is now looking really, really dry at the top end, so it is going to become very difficult for these drivers on those intermediate tyres, which will be screaming with the heat, as Lando Norris is now 0.6 seconds off the back of Verstappen. Verstappen now coming through turn one where he made that mistake. Lando Norris reeling him in so much. Half a second now is the gap from them. 2.8 seconds from Verstappen to Russell. As now Oscar Piastri sets the fastest lap of the race. Jason Plays saying, Lewis, it is hammer time, as we're on lap 18 of 70 here in Canada. Old Man Roo saying, will the Inter still work in the wet after a long spell on a dry track? They could work, as the DRS is now activated for the drivers out on circuit. Just confirming that it is now a dry circuit. They should still work for a little bit, depending on how much they've melted on a dry circuit. So if they melted too much, of course, then all of that tread does go away, and they will be essentially a set of slicks. Verstappen 2 seconds away from George Russell now, slowly eating away at that gap again. But he is coming under so much pressure from Lando Norris behind. Lando Norris with that DRS wide open, gaining on Max Verstappen into the final set of corners. 1.9 seconds now is Verstappen's gap to George Russell. As Lando Norris now all over the back of Verstappen. 1.8 seconds from Verstappen to Russell. Verstappen will be desperate to get within DRS range of Russell now to allow him to defend better from Lando behind. 1.8 seconds, 1.7 seconds. So finding his pace once again. Rain expected in 9 minutes time. 1.7 seconds from Verstappen to Russell. But Lando Norris all over the back of him. Half a second. And he has the DRS. Will he make a lunge? Verstappen defending well. 1.8 seconds from Verstappen to Russell, half a second from Verstappen to Norris. How much rain will fall in this next little spell as Norris is all over the rear of Verstappen. This should allow him to take a lunge down towards that final set of corners on the circuit. DRS now wide open for Norris, chasing down, closing down in on Verstappen. Will he go on the inside? Verstappen closing the door on the inside now. Norris continuing behind him, just playing it safe, hoping to close him down after this next DRS straight here towards turn 1. He's all over the back of him. Will he make a late lunge? Still staying safe right now. 0.3 seconds is the gap from Norris to Verstappen for that battle for second right now. Piastri also closing in on them. 1:25 is his best lap time and setting the fastest lap time of the race right now. The interval from Verstappen to Norris, half a second right now. Norris taking so much time out of Verstappen every single lap of this race right now. Verstappen 1.3 seconds behind Russell. 1.6 seconds as Norris looks to go on the inside. Will he get a good enough run? Verstappen defending well once again. Verstappen chasing down George Russell, trying to desperately get within DRS range. Getting put under so much pressure once again from Lando Norris. Oh, Norris so close to the back of him, almost touching Verstappen's rear wing. Verstappen diving off into the wet to try and cool his tyres down, harvesting heavily down this final straight. Norris trying to go around the outside on Verstappen. Will he make that move happen? Yes, he does. Before turn 14, brilliant move from Lando Norris to get past Verstappen. He's chasing down George Russell now. 1 second is the gap. As these interchanging conditions are happening out on circuit, that dry line rarely showing now, but we are waiting for that rain spell to hit once again. The McLarens finding some great rate space out here on these intermediate tyres, with DRS getting past Max Verstappen before turn 14. Brilliant move from the McLaren, as he's now all over the back of George Russell already. Doing so well is Lando Norris right now, really close to the back of George Russell as they come through the DRS, the first DRS straight on the circuit. Julia saying, let's go, Lando. Lando looking to make a lunge, possibly into the hairpin. Is he going to make it? Oh, he should have done it. There was a gap there, but still staying right on the rear of George Russell. Will he get a second opportunity for the second lap in a row to make a lunge into turn 14? DRS wide open. Russell having to concede once again for Lando Norris, getting past another driver into turn 14 as now Russell goes off the road. This is going to allow Verstappen to get past him. He does now. Verstappen takes second place away from Russell. Russell falling 2 positions on 1 lap. But Verstappen getting held up by Russell coming back onto the track. Now he is 2.1 seconds away from Lando Norris, the new race leader. Norris finding some phenomenal pace out on circuit, really running away from the likes of Verstappen and Russell. Just watching that lunge once again from Lando Norris as George Russell just had to bail out after turn 14. Just watching Verstappen as George Russell comes right across the track. He has to weave to get out of his way and get past him, and that promotes him into second place. Just watching further back, a brilliant overtake from Alex Albon on Charles Leclerc to get into on Charles Leclerc to get into 9th place as Leclerc is struggling once again. He gets overtaken by Yuki Tsunoda now. Old Man Roo saying it is the best race in a long time. It certainly is set out to be a phenomenal race here, and we're only on lap 22 of 70. as now Lando Norris has set the fastest lap of the race. Already 4.1 seconds ahead of Max Verstappen on lap 23 of 70. Superman also saying amazing race, as Jason Plays agreeing with Old Man Rue there. Race control noting a unsafe rejoin for George Russell, as Hamilton is still trying to chase down Fernando Alonso for 5th place. Will he get past him now? Getting so close through turn 2. Looking like a little bit of a nudge between these two multi-world champions. Max Verstappen now 4.5 seconds back from Lando Norris. Still all to play for here, though, as the rain could come and mess up all of these drivers' days here. 3 minutes is the expected time that the rain will fall over the circuit, as Verstappen is now 5 seconds behind Lando Norris. Daniel Ricciardo currently in 7th place, doing quite well for himself, having started in 5th place. He does have a penalty, though, coming, but I think he has served that already, as he is 23 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. It is getting darker overhead once again, as Fernando Alonso and Lewis Hamilton come through turn 13, now approaching 14 and 15, the final 2 corners on circuit. Oh, big snap of oversteer for Hamilton through the exit there. The dark clouds, though, rarely coming overhead now. 5.7, 5.8 seconds is the gap from Verstappen to Lando Norris, as these drivers are struggling on this drying circuit. But that big cloud that we're being shown now is coming slowly towards this circuit. Piastri now coming towards the back of George Russell, hoping to steal that final podium position away from the Mercedes driver. Half a second now between the two of them. George Russell possibly having used up a little bit too much of his tyres. Piastri getting a brilliant exit through the hairpin. TC saying that they think the weather forecast will be wrong, as the sky is still looking slightly bright. As Piastri still chasing down George Russell right now. Half a second is his gap. 7.3 seconds now from Verstappen to Norris. Now, Raul Porrita saying Oscar is going to take Russell soon. He certainly is, as Hamilton is still chasing down Fernando Alonso. This has been a very long battle between these two world champions. As we have 670 of you watching alongside with me, as we have a car of Logan Sargent in the wall. The Williams in the wall. That could be a red flag here into turn 6. Yellow flag still being shown in sector 1. Yellow flag still being shown, waiting to see what decision will be made. Very, very long decision being taken by the FIA, waiting to see what will happen. Can Logan Sargent get his car moving? That incident happening right in front of Max Verstappen, him being so lucky not to get caught up in that crash of Logan Sargent. Sargent just losing out in 3 and 4. Safety car now being called out. Will anyone dive into the pits? Who will make a decision to go into the pits first? Norris deciding not to come into the pits. As Julia saying, I feel like making predictions is almost impossible at this point. It certainly is not easy, as now Verstappen has dived into the pits. Lando Norris deciding not to. This could prove very, very interesting. What tyres will the likes of Verstappen, Russell, and Piastri put on? Are those mediums? Those look like mediums. As Verstappen, will he get out ahead of Russell in the pits? Yes, he does. Just get out ahead of Russell in the pits. That is crucial for Red Bulls under the safety car. Keeping their same positions. those are new inters. I apologize. Those are new intermediate tires for them. Free pit stop as there is that incoming rain. This could prove very, very interesting with the restart. Hamilton now coming out of the pits. He has gotten out ahead of Fernando Alonso in the pits. Brilliant teamwork from the Mercedes crew, getting a faster pit stop than Fernando Alonso's team. As we're still seeing the stricken car of Logan Sargent. Just watching a replay from Sargent now of this crash coming through 3 and 4. I think he just dropped it on the exit of 4. Yeah, he did. And then just spun it and, yeah, just lost it quite badly, unfortunately. Very, very lucky for Verstappen not to get caught up in that incident that Logan Sargent caused for himself. Just complete driver error, unfortunately. Spinning round, hitting his rear wing into the barrier and ending his day. Lots of carbon fiber all over the track as Lando Norris also coming into the pits now. Will he have enough time to have this pit stop safely though? He should be able to, as he's now approaching the pits. Some new intermediate tires being put on. Verstappen does get past. Verstappen does get past. As does, yes, as does the McLaren or the Mercedes of George Russell gets ahead of Lando Norris. Verstappen and Russell are once again ahead of Norris. Bad call from the McLarens to call them into the pits. They should have just understood that they had decided to keep hold of that track position and forfeit that new tire. But then deciding to call him in late has now forfeited their lead of the race. Everything's still to play for here as Daniel Ricciardo now taking his penalty. Now work being done on the car, new set of inters for him, back out onto circuit. 5-second penalty for Daniel Ricciardo for a false start. Where will he come out? Now looking at 10th. Will he hold on to that points position? As Norris now in P3. TC mirroring what I had to say there. Bad decision from Norris's team. As we're waiting for this restart, I'm going to run to get some water quickly. So still under safety car conditions here. Thank you, Ray. As you pointed out, my mic was off there. We are just waiting for Logan Sargent's car to get recovered off the circuit. They had it attached to that crane, so hopefully they will get that recovered very, very shortly. Looking at the weekend attendance here, 350,000 people sitting out at the circuit in Montreal. It is looking like it's still dry and waiting for this possible cloud to come overhead and throw some more rain onto the circuit. Still lap 28 of 70, watching Daniel Ricciardo's false start as to why he got that 5-second penalty. Comes onto the revs. Apparently, I didn't really see a false start there, but apparently he was creeping ever so slightly. Safety car, though, still being shown, looking at that possible rain system moving overhead, as the safety car will be ending on this lap. Ratusha just saying, how does Red Bull make wrong decisions with such confidence? I don't know what wrong decisions you're talking about. They're currently leading the race. Sergio Perez has been struggling, though, as we're looking at Charles Leclerc sitting in the pits at the moment. Don't know what the issue is here for him. He's on a set of slicks, though, on a set of hards. Still waiting for him to leave the pits. Coming onto the radio now. Still, I don't know what the issue is. Possibly just trying to fix some issue on his car there, as he is now back out of the pits. He had some power unit issue, apparently. As he stopped, it just conked out. He couldn't get it restarted. As now this rain is looking even more ominous overhead. Cat Lover saying, I wish I had access to the live stream with actual playbacks. Sargent crashing so regularly sounds like something I'm missing out on. As we're watching now, Verstappen starting to back the grid up for the restart of this race. The safety car racing towards turn 1 and the final corners, where it will dive back into the pits and allow the grid to resume racing once again, as it is getting once again very, very dark overhead as the rain is coming towards us. JP saying, looks like Leclerc tried to turn it off and on again. Yeah, it's an HP now, so it's pretty much a computer. You can turn it off and on again, hope it will just reset it. Verstappen weaving backwards and forwards to get heat into his tires ahead of the safety car restart. The green flag is being shown as he's coming towards the final chicane of 13 and 14. Waiting for him to start. He does now start the race past the wall of champions, back onto the throttle, trying to catch out his contender of Russell, Norris and Piastri, slowly eking out ahead of them now onto this interchanging circuit. Once again, dry line so evident out on circuit, but that could get taken away from them once again with that ominous rain cloud currently sitting overhead. Half a second between Russell and Verstappen at the restart. Leclerc onto the radio saying, being told on the radio, we think we fixed the engine issue. What will they be able to do on that set of hard tires? Will that allow them to really get a little bit more punchy? Verstappen still leading this race, 0.7 seconds ahead of Russell. Norris, 1.4 seconds off the race leader. As FIA stewards note, no further investigation for Russell and Verstappen into turn 14. As now the rain is falling overhead. It is falling into the final chicane, into that big hairpin. As JP says, now Ferrari is praying it doesn't rain. Well, that has not worked out. Leclerc comes onto the radio. Just being told to keep it on track. Two laps of supposed rain, and then it should dry. So they're hoping that a bit of a gamble to go early onto the slicks will work out for them. As Piastri now all over the rear of Norris, coming towards that wall of champions chicane. It is absolutely coming down out on circuit. This will be affecting those who are on the slick tires of Leclerc. He is just falling further and further down behind Zhou Guanyu. 33 seconds to the leader, 35 seconds now, really struggling. Rain really falling overhead. Verstappen leading 1.3 seconds, 1.4 seconds now from George Russell. Ferrari clearly thinking they have nothing to lose and trying something different as DRS is disabled once again. Leclerc 37, 38 seconds now behind Max Verstappen. Just seeing how he really has to lift and coast through turn 1 and 2. Leonardo just saying, can we retire Charles already? It is absolutely dismal for him out on circuit here today. 42 seconds off the race leader. Just 2 laps after the race restart. Really coming down over the circuit now as we're watching the leaders of Verstappen and Russell chasing down. 1.6 seconds is that gap. Russell to Norris, 3.5 seconds. As we're watching Alex Albon trying to get past past Yuki Tsunoda and getting himself past an Alpine at the same time. Brilliant. 2 cars into 1 corner. Absolutely phenomenal work from Alex Albon. To get himself now up into P9. He gets on the outside of the RB towards that braking zone, then dives through onto the inside, threads the needle on Ocon. Brilliant, brilliant work for him there. Verstappen still currently our race leader, 1.4 seconds, 1.2 seconds now ahead of George Russell. 1.1 seconds. Lando Norris, though, closing down on the race leader, 2.5 seconds from himself to Verstappen. Still all to fight for between that top 3. 1 second now from Russell to Verstappen. As Leclerc only comes into the pits now. Watching with Charles Leclerc, he's had another pit stop. 2.5 seconds is that pit time for him, as I see a bit of carbon going flying as they come through the hairpin, waiting to see what car that is. That looks like Sainz's car that the bodywork came flying off of. As we're seeing one of the Hasses going deep into 13 and 14, cutting the chicane. Leclerc a whole minute down on the race leader of Verstappen now. Verstappen once again 1.5 seconds up on Russell. Not even at half distance yet of this race being affected by the rain. Really a great spectacle of Formula One here today. Just so punchy and still interchanging positions in that top 3. Everything could happen as we see Carlos Sainz get so close to the back of the Sauber of, I think that is Valtteri Bottas. There is actually contact as he does destroy his front right end plate of his wing. Eman asking, did Sargent crash? Yes, he did. He lost it out into turns 3 and 4. Just spinning round and breaking his rear wing, leaving that car stricken and calling out the safety car for the first time. George Russell, 0.9 seconds behind Max Verstappen now, finding some good pace. As Stroll looking like he's going to get a run on Yuki Tsunoda towards the final 2 corners. Verstappen still holding out on George Russell at 0.9 seconds right now. Verstappen opens that up again into the braking zone of 1 and 2 to 1.1 seconds now. Lance Stroll still chasing down Yuki Tsunoda, the home hero, trying to get further up the order. Fighting with the steering wheel at the moment. Currently the second Aston Martin driver down the order, currently sitting in 8th. His teammate Fernando Alonso up in 6th. Still chasing down Yuki Tsunoda. That gap from Verstappen to Russell under a second once again. Yanni saying, why doesn't Charles retire? It's pointless at the moment. Well, there is still everything to play for as we are only now approaching the midway section of this race. Leclerc almost a lap down now as Verstappen is chasing him down towards turn 1. Russell now 0.8 down as we see the Aston Martin cutting the chicane there into 13 and 14, not being able to hold on to the brakes. Albon following suit with Stroll, cutting that chicane, possibly just following him a little bit too closely and getting caught out there. Noel Pujita saying Perez has done nothing. He certainly has done absolutely nothing throughout this race yesterday, not making any positions as of yet. We're currently on lap 35 of 70 at the exact middle point of this race. Gareth Peters is saying, now we can see Fernando chasing Lewis for a few laps. It should be interesting. It certainly should be, as we're hoping Alonso can get within striking distance of Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton currently chasing down Oscar Piastri. 0.8 seconds is his gap to him. Brilliant racing here today as Verstappen chasing down Charles Leclerc still towards turn 1. TC saying we need heavier rain to cause a bit more chaos. It certainly would be interesting, but it does not look like we will get any more rain. We've just had a bit of a downpour. Verstappen trying to chase down Charles Leclerc, who should be getting the blue flags, but Verstappen still not able to get past him as of yet. Russell 1.5 seconds behind him, but Verstappen still not being able to catch the likes of Leclerc. Yanni saying, I think Charles is confused. I believe he thinks he's leading and not about to be lapped. LOL. Certainly quite funny to see a Ferrari being in the closing stages of being lapped. Of course, just making that wrong call to bring Leclerc onto the hard tyre during the safety car period. A bit of a gamble that they would have hoped worked, but that rain did come down and affect their chances of making that strategy work here today. Hamilton now all over the back of Oscar Piastri as they come through turn 12. Still wondering what would have happened to Lando Norris if he had not pitted for that new set of intermediate tyres. Of course, giving up that race lead for a new set of tyres. He is now chasing down George Russell, but not able to make massive inroads as now Leclerc dives out the way for the top 5. Verstappen now opening up his lead to 2.4 seconds now that he's been released from Charles Leclerc. Lap 37 of 70, FIA steward saying no further investigation for Sainz, Bottas and Ricciardo into turn 10 with that collision. Ricciardo closing down on Ocon for a top 10 finishing position. As Verstappen still trying to open up the gap to George Russell ahead. Norris now almost within a second to George Russell ahead of him. Valtteri Bottas chasing down Daniel Ricciardo at the moment, all over the rear of him, so close as they approach that happen. But Carlos Sainz now also all over the back of Bottas. Be sure to think about becoming a member of our channel. That's currently pinned in our comment section. If you'd like to support the channel and everything that we do, think about becoming a channel member. Now, Sergio Perez is putting on pressure from Kevin Magnussen for 15th place, and he does get that position now as they come through the final 2 corners. 720 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining in on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. As Verstappen now 2.6 seconds ahead of George Russell in that top spot. Magnussen desperate to take that position back to Sergio Perez, but Perez now slowly eking away from him. Perez still not having a great race yet this afternoon in Canada. Tsunoda having a great race though for himself. He's up in the top 7 ahead of Lance Stroll at the moment. Nico Hülkenberg trying to get past the outside of Zhou Guanyu into turn 13. He does make that position work. Old Man Roo asking if the track is drying yet. It certainly is, as the rain has stopped falling overhead. Yuki Tsunoda still on the same set of tyres that he started with. And that will be why he has been promoted up to P7 right now. TC saying that Perez is Horner's greatest ever sighting. I sense a little bit of sarcasm there, TC. As Yuki Tsunoda still chasing down Fernando Alonso. Currently on lap 39 of 70. As Carlos Sainz coming all under pressure from Pierre Gasly behind. Russell now falling to 2.8 seconds behind Max Verstappen. Verstappen finding great pace out on these slick or these intermediate tyres in the changing conditions from wet to slick. 3 seconds now is the gap from Verstappen to Russell. Russell to Norris, though, 1.5 seconds between the two of them. Still not a massive gap. Any little mistake could mean the top positions change hands here. A massively dry line forming into turn 12. Denby asking what is happening to Ferrari here today. Certainly struggling a bit as the DRS is enabled once again. Russell coming onto the radio saying it is going to be turns 1 and 2 again. Still very wet. Everywhere else is drying. Who will be the first to pit for dry tyres, asks TC. As the first half of the racetrack is perfect for intermediates, as we see a big moment for Nico Hülkenberg. You do not want to go off of the racing line at the moment, as if you do, it is super, super wet out there. Julia saying Bottas into the pits. They're now channeling their inner Sauber fan, as the Ferraris are doing nothing here today. Verstappen now 2.7 seconds ahead of Russell. Russell slowly closing that gap to Verstappen. As Hamilton now closing in on Oscar Piastri. Lap 40 of 70. Hamilton deploying high amounts of energy now as he takes the fastest lap of the race. A 1:23.8. Everyone bunching up at the moment between the top 5, getting really, really close, fighting for that final position. 2.7 seconds still from Verstappen to Russell, 2.8 seconds now. As Perez takes 14th place as Gasly dives into the pits for a set of hards. second set of slicks here today. Will that play into the hands of Alpine? Will it work? All of the other teams will be watching with high intent to see whether they will have the pace out on circuit or whether it is still a little bit too early for those slicks. Yellow flag in sector 1. What has happened is that the Alpine green flag shown once again. Waiting to see what caused that yellow flag. Verstappen, Russell, Norris, Piastri and Hamilton still our top 5. As George Russell now has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, as is that Lando Norris has gone wide off the track. That gives second place or third place to Piastri now. Could that 3.8 seconds is the gap from Verstappen to Russell. Waiting for a replay of that. Norris now 1.1 seconds off the back of Russell. Just watching this mistake from Lando Norris, chasing down George Russell, just locks up and goes wide and has to take off that run off road into turn 1. He then comes back onto the track just behind George Russell. Certainly lucky to hold on to third position there and not have Piastri get ahead of you. Verstappen opening up his gap once again to 4 seconds. Russell comes onto the radio saying, I lost a lot of time from Norris avoiding action, 1.5 seconds. Russell certainly did lose a little bit of time there, about 1.5 seconds. As we're seeing just how dirty these cars are getting. From Lewis Hamilton's car now turning a bit more of a brown than a silver Mercedes. Leclerc coming onto the radio being told, retire the car. Finally retiring the car from the race. They tried to take a gamble on the tyres, but it did not work out for them today. That is the end of his race here in Montreal. Norris now 0.7 seconds behind George Russell. Lando Norris's incident into turn 1 has been noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. TC saying, stop giving commentary for yourself, Russell, and just drive the car. Norris still all over the back of Russell. Hamilton all over the back of Oscar Piastri now. As Russell still 3.5 seconds off of Max Verstappen, the race leader at the moment. Will we get an opportunity for slick tyres as Bottas, Magnussen and Gasly are all on tyres? Lewis Hamilton will be the first of the top 5 to dive into the pits now. But the top 3 still setting the quickest lap times of the race. What tyres will Hamilton go on to? Onto a set of mediums for the Mercedes driver. Will this work for the Mercedes here today as they're getting ready to bring in the Red Bull of Sergio Perez now in that Red Bull garage? JP saying, now this will get interesting. TC saying, Leclerc needs to drink a strong one. I certainly think he does. As the midfield all dive into the pits now. What will those top 5 do in retaliation though? Norris all over the back of George Russell as they approach the hairpin. Who will be the first out of that top 5 to dive into the pits now? Will Russell dive into the pits to call off the likes of Lewis Hamilton? Waiting to see what is going to happen. As George Russell continues to go out. Carlos Sainz currently in the pits. Perez also leaving the pits now. Pencil Tencil asking, will we have the Dutch anthem today? Well, we'll have to wait and see. The race is not won and done yet, with still another 25 laps to go. Pit stop for Oscar Piastri, leaving the pits now. Where will he come out? Will he come out ahead of Lewis Hamilton? He is goal though. Hamilton still behind Piastri. That is what the McLarens needed to do. Hamilton is going to be flying though compared to Piastri, as now Verstappen is told box, box. So clearly the track now dry enough to come in for the top of the drivers out on circuit. Waiting to see what tyres they're going to be putting on. There's still some really dark clouds overhead. The only 3 cars left on intermediate tyres are the top 3 at the moment. Verstappen now diving into the pits, as does George Russell. Lando Norris, though, continuing out on circuit at the moment. Very interesting strategic call for the McLaren of Lando Norris here. He sets the fastest lap of the race. As the Red Bull of Verstappen comes into the pits, this needs to be a good pit stop. It does look relatively good for himself. Slower pit stop for George Russell. Red Bull covering off the move from the Mercedes. Could this be a podium for Oscar, asks Old Man Rue. It's certainly looking like it could be here today. Oscar Piastri coming round now through turn 2. Norris has done a personal best first sector of his race now on his intermediate tyres still. So still a lot of pace for himself. Verstappen now 20.3 seconds behind Lando Norris. We'll wait and see how much time he can eat away on his warm-up lap on those medium tyres. Russell on a set of hards behind, Piastri on a set of mediums. So differing strategies between the slick runners at the moment, with 24 laps left to go of this race. 20.8 is the gap from Verstappen to Norris. Norris continuing out on circuit. A big slide though through turn 14. Crosses the finish line. He sets another fastest lap time of the race, but Verstappen is closing him down. The gap is coming down now, 20.2 seconds from Verstappen to Norris. Norris possibly going 1 lap too far, but that gap is opening up once again. Charles Leclerc watching from the garage. .21 seconds from the lead of the race now, 21.3. Lando Norris trying to open up that gap to Verstappen. Certainly able to make it happen right now, 21.5. He's going faster. Still on those inters. Where will Verstappen come out when Lando Norris comes into the pits? 20.8 seconds once again to Verstappen. Lando Norris now diving into the pits, hard onto the brakes. Verstappen now will be hurtling down towards the start-finish straight to get past Lando Norris, but that gap still 20 seconds. Norris now into his pit box, tyres all off. Back down onto the ground. Average time loss is about 18 seconds. Where will Verstappen come? He's coming down towards the start-finish line. Will it be enough for Verstappen? Coming down towards turn 1 and 2. Lando Norris, will he hold on to the lead of the race? It's so close. Verstappen will have warmer tyres. He comes around the inside and takes the lead. Lando Norris has a big slide as he comes onto the wetter part of the racetrack. Lando Norris not able to make that overtake work in the pits. He now has some work to do out on circuit. He also gets passed by George Russell. He is slithering all out on circuit as he's battling for tyre temperature. Sorry, Lando Norris is ahead of George Russell. Piastri is chasing him down. That is who I thought it was. But Russell will be hurtling towards Norris now. 0.9, 0.7 as Norris is 4.2 seconds down on race leader Max Verstappen on those medium tyres. The Red Bull should be the fastest car out on circuit, though, in these race conditions. Now, 48 laps haven't been done of this race. 22 left to go. Russell with the chance to get past Lando Norris. Will he get an opportunity? No, he doesn't. Russell just gets the door closed on him from Norris. Verstappen with the fastest lap of the race. 3.8 seconds is the gap from himself to Norris. 3.7 seconds now. Verstappen coming onto the radio saying the ride is very bad. It's like a lock suspension again. 4.3 seconds, 4.4 seconds from Verstappen to Norris. Just watching Lando Norris coming out of the pits. He goes onto that wet part of the racetrack, makes it so difficult for him to get these tyres fired up. Just has a massive snap of oversteer as he comes onto the power to try and keep himself ahead of Verstappen. Verstappen, though, just eases past him. Green flag being shown. Was there a possible issue out on circuit? 4.6 seconds is the gap from Verstappen to Norris. 4.7 seconds now. Lando Norris going to have to defend heavily with a big lockup into the hairpin. He's going to be coming under so much pressure now from George Russell. Just able to keep his tyre ahead and block Russell off as Russell now comes around the outside towards turn 13. He gets ahead of Lando Norris and takes second place away from him. George Russell now will be chasing down Max Verstappen. 4.2 seconds is the gap as Russell sets that fastest lap time. Russell half a second now behind, well, Norris now half a second behind Russell. Julia saying Ferrari put him on the wrong tyres and then the gap dropped, just saying about what happened with the Ferrari. Verstappen saying I can't touch any curbs as it almost knocks him out. Just complaining about the ride of his car. 4.2 seconds is the gap from Russell to Verstappen now. Russell having that fastest lap of the race with 20 laps left to go. Still all to play for. Russell having set the fastest middle sector of the Grand Prix so far. 3.9 seconds is the gap from himself now to Verstappen, slowly closing in on him. Will Verstappen be able to hold out with 20 more laps to go? He sets another fastest lap time. Just watching that incident between Norris and Russell where they got oh so close to touching in the hairpin at the top of the track. Then Russell had the brilliant run down towards 13 and 14 and just got round the outside of him. 4.1 is the gap from Russell to Verstappen. Verstappen opening up that gap once again with 19 laps left to go. Norris 0.9 seconds off the back of Russell. Russell going deep though, as now Norris has gotten an opportunity and he gets back past George Russell before the hairpin. All still to play for as the tricky conditions are making it so tricky for these drivers. You just dip your wheel off into the wet part of the track and you can really ruin your run, as now Norris takes second place back again from George Russell. They're coming so close now towards the chicane of 13 and 14. Both making that chicane now. Verstappen setting another fastest lap time, 5.5 seconds up on Lando Norris. Second place though changing as Russell comes onto the radio saying expletives there, being told, focus, George, focus. 18 laps left of this race now. Nail-biting stuff at the moment. Any little mistakes can mean the end of your race here. It is so tricky, just seeing how George ever so slightly touched the wet line, and that just reduces all of his grip and allows that McLaren to just race past him. It is just so tricky out on circuit with these wet conditions, as we're watching that overtake from Lando Norris on George Russell. Toto Wolff looking very, very stern on the pit wall, talking to George Russell at the moment on the radio. Yellow flag in Sector 2. What has happened in Sector 2? Perez drops down a position. Albon now dropping positions. Green flag shown once again. Verstappen sets another fastest lap of the race, a 1:17.905, as now Lando Norris takes that away from him with a 1:17.6 as Perez falls further down the grid. He has a broken DRS and broken rear wing. That has been a massive shunt from Sergio Perez. Who the hell knows how that happened? Massive, massive incident for him, as there's going to be a possible big piece of carbon dropped all over the track there. Who knows what has happened there for Sergio Perez, but his weekend goes from bad to even worse here after another bad weekend out in Monaco. George Russell half a second off the back of Lando Norris, fighting once again as we see that big piece of carbon deposited on the circuit from Sergio Perez's car. He certainly will be retiring from this race, as TC says, are Red Bull's finest, LOL, as Sergio Perez now dives into the pits. Who the hell knows how that happened for himself, as the yellow flag is now shown in Sector 2, possibly just to pick up that debris. No, it's because we have a bit of an incident between Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, as Carlos Sainz is doing pirouettes trying to recover his car on circuit. He is really spinning all over the place. He's also got a broken rear wing. That will be the end of Carlos Sainz's race here today. Yellow flags in Sector 1 and 2. Just scenes all over the place at the moment, as Alex Albon looks like he's been taken out of the race. That could be another safety car. Yes, it is. Safety car now shown. As I said, everything's still to play for in these closing stages of the race. Albon, who was in 11th position, now out of this race. JP saying this race has had absolutely everything. It certainly has just been nail-biting from start to finish. Still all to play for with 16 laps left to go. Safety car backing the grid up once again. Who will dive into the pits? Will we get the top 5 diving into the pits for a final free pit stop? Just watching what happened to Sergio Perez. He spun it round. That's what happened for him, unfortunately, and caused that broken rear wing and ending his race. Just dropping it, unfortunately for him, into turn 6. As we're watching what happened from Pierre Gasly's point of view. Just absolute scenes in these final couple of laps of this race. Interesting to see that Red Bull have re-signed Sergio Perez with that. Just trying to see what happens. Sainz lost it, then backed into Albon. Oh, so disappointing for Alex Albon. Of no fault of his own, just gets taken out by a spinning Ferrari of Sainz. So disappointing for him there. Sainz drops it and just rolls it into Albon, as now it looks like Russell has put on a new set of tires. Does Verstappen also put on a new set? Hamilton onto the set of hard tires now for the race restart. Sainz still in the pits. waiting to see what they're going to decide to do. He hasn't gotten out of the car just yet, as Albon's car is now being retrieved from the circuit. George Russell on brand new medium tyres. This could come into play near the end of this race, but he will have Piastri and Norris to get past to get close to Verstappen. Julia is just saying, I was about to make a very short list of the things that could make this any worse, but I really don't want to jinx it. JP saying, what a disaster weekend for Ferrari. As Lindy, we're also saying Ferrari, Perez, and Williams will want to wave goodbye to this weekend for sure. They certainly will. 4 retirements from this race so far, with Sainz set to join them as well. Lap 55 of 70 at the moment. Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri still not having taken new tyres as Sainz now does climb out of his car. 15 laps left to go of this race today. Both Ferraris out, both Williams out, one of the Red Bulls out. Just an overall disappointing race weekend for the likes of the 2 Ferrari drivers, the 2 Williams drivers, of no fault of Albon's own, though unfortunately he just got taken out by a stray. Sainz, yeah, very, very disappointing for all of those drivers, unfortunately. Daniel Ricciardo, though, back into the points now. He's up into P10. Very lucky for himself. Just watching from Alex Albon's point of view, once again, just tries to be so tentative and tries to stay out of the way, but just gets careered into by a reversing Ferrari of Sainz. Oh, just so disappointing. Just a big shunt at low speed between the Ferrari and the Williams of Alex Albon. So waiting for this track to be cleared once again, and then we will get a safety car restart. Verstappen with 10 lap-old mediums, Norris with 8 lap-old mediums, Piastri with 11 lap-old mediums, Russell with brand new mediums, Hamilton with brand new hards, Alonso with old hards, Stroll with old hards, and then Tsunoda also with old medium tyres. So still really differing strategies coming into play here, as Norris comes onto the radio saying, being told, we don't see anything on the radar, but big showers are popping up around, so we can't rule it out at the moment. So still some rain could possibly come into play in the closing stages of this race here today. Emilia asking what happened to Carlos. Carlos just lost it in the middle sector of this track and unfortunately careered into Alex Albon, taking both of them out of this Canadian Grand Prix. Some angry looking rain clouds in the distance. Hopefully they will not come and interfere with the race here this afternoon, as we have a very exciting restart ahead of us here. Jason Place saying that he signed a new contract and Red Bull didn't think he would leave to the end of 2025. Obviously talking about Sergio Perez. Just looking at a lap by lap, Hamilton has the new fastest lap and has DRS in his fight with Piastri for 4th. That was on lap 42. Lap 43, Norris made a mistake and gave 2nd place to George Russell and then gained it back again. Zhou Guanyu now trying to unlap himself from the grid. He's currently in 15th place and last position on the grid, as we have had 5 retirements from this race. Yuki currently up in P8. His teammate Daniel Ricciardo down in P10. Good race weekend for the both of them so far. Still rain clouds though overhead. Dark clouds still overhead on the circuit. Could we get another shower that can just throw a spanner into the works with 13 laps left to go of this race here today? 760 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you very much for joining in on the stream. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not joined us already. As I see, we do have 860 of you now. as we're waiting for the safety car restart. Safety car still going around on circuit at the moment. Verstappen slowly backing up the grid as the safety car will come in now on this lap. So there will be 13 or 12 remaining laps of the race. TC saying this race is more exciting than Monaco for sure. It certainly is a much more exciting race than Monaco was last time out, as we're waiting the safety car restart in the next couple of minutes. They're coming through the middle sector now, as Christian gives their support for Alonso. Jordan saying thanks for the commentary, currently flying to New York, and geo-locked out of the stream. Thank you very much for joining with us. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you would like to join us for more race weekends here on this Forever Motorsports channel. We also bring you Moto GP, which is being quite exciting this year as we are waiting for the safety car restart. They are just approaching the hairpin at the top of the circuit now. So Verstappen will start to back up the entire grid ahead of the safety car restart. Russell and Hamilton will be wanting to make the most of their brand new tyres to get themselves up into those top 3 positions. Pencil Tencil saying Williams and Ferrari gone. What the hell? It has certainly been a race to forget for those 2 teams. But what will happen now as the green flag is now shown? Max Verstappen still backing up the grid. When will he release? Lando Norris following him closely. Verstappen still warming up his tyres. Lando Norris waiting very tentatively behind him. Verstappen still yet to pounce. Verstappen aggressively warming up his tyres. Now coming through the chicane, he releases and flies towards turn 1. The race is once again resumed. We have 12 laps, now 11 laps left to go. Current world champion leading the race, Lando Norris, will be doing everything within his power to steal that race win away from him, but Verstappen already 1.1 seconds ahead of him at the race restart. 1.2 seconds now. Norris struggling to catch him up. Middle sector though, where Verstappen struggles a little bit more. Tapek saying, in my opinion, Max would just be risking using his tyre until the end. Well, he's certainly going to have to use it one way or the other. He's got 11 laps left to go, and he will have to give it his all, with Norris pushing, Piastri pushing, and of course Russell on a brand new set of mediums. 900 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you so much for joining in on the stream. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already. Verstappen 1.9 seconds ahead of Norris. Russell 3.3 seconds off the leader. Medium tyres all round in the top 4. TC saying Max is the best at restarts. He knows exactly what to do every time. He certainly does do a brilliant restart to get ahead of the rest of the grid. 1.8 seconds is his gap to Lando Norris behind. FIA investigating after the race unsafe condition. Don't know what that is for. As the DRS is once again enabled out on circuit, Piastri 0.8 down on Norris. Norris might just have to defend from his younger teammate. Russell also putting the pressure on Piastri. So Lando Norris is going to need to pick up the pace, as he has now fallen 2 seconds behind the race leader of Verstappen. Yoda saying, what the heck, Ferrari? Julia saying, is the FIA investigating the weather now? That certainly would be an interesting investigation. I wonder who they'll give the penalty to. As we're watching George Russell chasing down Oscar Piastri for the final podium position here today. Piastri, though, all over the rear of his teammate Lando Norris. 10 laps left to go. As Norris sets the fastest lap, then Russell steals that away from him. Yoda saying, watch F1, I do. As we're watching now, Kevin Magnussen running the chicane at the end of the circuit. Pencil Tencil saying Zhou driving a tractor faster than the Alpine, though. Verstappen having done a 1:17 for the last lap round, Norris a 1:17.2, but Norris still 2.1 seconds down on Verstappen at the moment. Piastri 0.6 behind his teammate Norris. Russell also putting a lot of pressure on the back of the McLaren driver Piastri. Old Man Roo says that they're going to give the weather a one-race ban, as Piastri's getting put under so much pressure now from George Russell behind. Half a second is the gap between them. Will Piastri be able to hold out ahead? He's getting helped along, though, by the DRS from his teammates. 1.9 seconds, though, is the gap from Norris to Verstappen, as we have 8 laps left to go of this race. Verstappen sets the fastest lap once again. 1.8 seconds now from Norris to Verstappen. TC saying, LOL, Old Man Roo. Hamilton not able to make major inroads on his teammate. 1.9 seconds is his interval to George Russell. George Russell half a second off the back of Piastri. Russell, of course, on brand new mediums. Turn 12 incident involving Gasly and Hülkenberg has been reviewed with no further investigation necessary. Russell still chasing down Piastri. 0.3 seconds is the gap as they come into the hairpin. Russell making a late lunge into the hairpin. Will he be able to steal that position away? Now chasing down Piastri down the long straight. DRS open for both cars. Russell trying to go around the outside. Will Piastri hold on? He does seem to hold on into the braking zone. Brilliant racing from Oscar Piastri, not letting himself get bullied out of that position from George Russell. Verstappen sets the fastest lap once again with a 1:16.318. 7 laps left to go. Piastri still ahead of George Russell. Brilliant racing between those two drivers. Piastri being told, request to hold your position. Do you think you can challenge Verstappen? He was 1:17.4 last lap, being then coming onto the radio saying, I need to focus on keeping Russell behind me. Just leave me to it. Just leave Oscar Piastri to it, gents. He has got 7 laps to hold out on George Russell to take that final podium position. Big things expected from Piastri. He just wants to get a back-to-back podium here today. As Naral Pojita says, hold that spot, Oscar. Now 0.4 seconds ahead of Russell as they come down towards 13 and 14, the final 2 corners on the racetrack. He is out of DRS range from Lando Norris, so this is allowing Russell to really catch up to him very, very quickly. Russell attempting to go around the outside. Piastri holding on. Do they make contact? Yes, they do make some contact into turn 13 and 14. Now Russell goes behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton. That will certainly be investigated. Piastri not giving out and holding on to that position. Russell having brilliant pace out on circuit, but not being able to deliver it against Oscar Piastri. Piastri just really showing what he is made of, not giving out when being challenged from that Mercedes. Just watching the replay here. Piastri stayed neat and tidy. I don't think there was even any contact. Waiting to see. It is oh so close between the two of them. I don't think there was contact, but they just got so close together. Russell decided to bail out. Really difficult to go through there side by side, of course, in these really wide Formula One cars. Now Hamilton will be the next driver to mount an attack on Piastri for that final podium position. Max Verstappen setting another fastest lap of the race. 2.8 seconds ahead of Lando Norris. As we're watching a big DRS train forming from Esteban Ocon. Daniel Ricciardo right behind Yuki Tsunoda, being told you are allowed to fight Yuki. He certainly will be. Charles16 saying Ferrari did so good. Send clown emoji if you agree. Certainly send a clown emoji in the chat for Ferrari's F here today. Russell chasing down Hamilton now to get that position back. Once again, Ricciardo chasing down his teammate Yuki Tsunoda for 9th place. Carlos, stop spamming the chat, please. As now Lewis Hamilton gets past Oscar Piastri for 3rd place just before the braking zone into 14. With 5 laps now left to go of this race, Piastri's tyres clearly falling off the edge. He's starting to fall into the clutches of George Russell now as well. Lewis Hamilton clearly finding some great pace on those fresh tyres now. Starting to reel in Lando Norris. 1.9 seconds is the gap that he needs to make up. Lando Norris and Piastri could have worked a little bit smarter here today to just fend off those two Mercedes. As now Piastri is coming under pressure from George Russell. Piastri now falling into the clutches of George Russell. TC saying I'm in tears. Lewis is 3rd, as Wesley Snipes giving their support for Verstappen. Tsunoda now falling down the order. Yellow flag in sector 2. What has happened to Yuki Tsunoda? As now George Russell gets past Oscar Piastri. Yellow flag still shown in sector 2. What has Yuki Tsunoda done? Waiting to see what has happened to Yuki. Green flag shown once again, so clearly Tsunoda's gotten himself back out on circuit. Just watching what happened here for him. Chasing down Esteban Ocon, ended up in the grass. Oh, that was oh my word. He almost got collected by one of the houses there. That was so close for Yuki Tsunoda rejoining the track, of course. All 4 tires locked up. Oh, so close to one of those houses. That could have been a major crash here today. How no one's crashed there was just absolutely incredible that no one collected Yuki Tsunoda. That was just absolutely gut-wrenching to see how close that got between Kevin Magnussen, between turn 9 and Yuki Tsunoda. Just watching a replay there, I'm sure Magnussen's heart rate went up quite quickly there. Verstappen 2.8 seconds ahead of Norris now with 3 laps left to go of this race. Jason Plays saying it is hammer time now for Lewis. 2.3 seconds is the gap from himself to Norris. Norris opening up that gap now. $987 of you watching alongside with me. Thank you so much for joining in on the stream. We have the last 2 laps left to go. Still so close between the top 3, split by only 5 seconds. Norris onto the radio. Being told that it looks like there's a lot of debris, so he says yes, there could be a puncture for somebody, so just being told to be careful, of course, in the sector where there's a lot of debris out on circuit after turn 9 where Yuki Tsunoda did go off. there should be a yellow flag out on the circuit, at least for that debris that is still over there. Norris desperate, I think, to hold on to second place here, possibly just trying to get something to happen here. Russell closing down in on his teammate. Will he steal that position away? Both really feisty into turn 13 and 14. Russell getting told we are racing. Just remember, it goes without saying, please keep it clean. Russell hit the wall though and is possibly losing a bit of pace as now Hamilton closes down on him, but not able to make that position change as they come through turn 1 and 2. George Russell just watching him making that big lunge down the inside of his teammate. That could have been such a big incident between the two of them. Russell making such a good move there at the end. Just watching Verstappen though, he gets so close to the wall there. That could have been race ending for Max Verstappen. As now they're on the final 2 laps of this 2024 Canadian Grand Prix. Verstappen coming towards the start-finish line to start the final lap of the race. Lando Norris 3.2 seconds behind him. George Russell 1.6 seconds behind Norris. Hamilton still chasing down on George Russell as we have 1,000 people watching in on the stream at the moment. Thank you so much for joining. Be sure to hit subscribe if you're not already. Hamilton really all over the back of George Russell. Could they be fighting out for the final position on the podium here this afternoon? So many nail-biting moments throughout this Formula 1 Grand Prix here in Canada. We're finally on the final lap of the race. Max Verstappen comfortably leading. It did not look like he was going to win the race all too easily here today in the opening stages behind George Russell, not able to make any inroads. Then Lando Norris was doing so well out on circuit, got past Verstappen, then got past George Russell. Verstappen was able to get past Russell then into second place, and in the pit stop phases Verstappen gained better than Russell did with that safety car. Verstappen now coming down the final long start finish straight to finish up this race to win the Canadian Grand Prix through the Wall of Champions, passing there, approaching the start finish line. His Red Bull engineers waving out the pit window as Verstappen finishes the race here in Montreal. Second place goes to Lando Norris. Third place goes to George Russell. And fourth goes to Hamilton, taking the fastest lap in the end. Piastri finishes in fifth. Alonso sixth. Stroll in seventh. Daniel Ricciardo, brilliant race finish for him in eighth. Gasly ninth. Ocon 10th. Hulkenberg in 11th. But we could get some little bits of shuffling between the two Alpines who are fighting it out. But they do finish 9th and 10th for Gasly and Ocon. Hulkenberg 11th, Magnussen 12th, Bottas 13th, Tsunoda 14th, and Zhou Guanyu, the final finisher of this Canadian Grand Prix. And what a Canadian Grand Prix that was. Thank you so much to all of you for watching alongside with me. Be sure to spam the chat, supporting your favorite driver, Verstappen, coming onto the radio, being told, great job, Max. Just saying that it was really close race here today. 3.8 seconds was his gap in the end, saying, yes, thank you for a brilliant race, guys. As just to go through our finishing order once again, after 70 laps of really difficult racing around here in Montreal, Verstappen has taken the race win from Lando Norris in second, George Russell in third, Lewis Hamilton fourth, Oscar Piastri fifth, Fernando Alonso sixth, Lance Stroll in seventh, Daniel Ricciardo 8th, Pierre Gasly 9th, Esteban Ocon 10th, Nico Hulkenberg 11th, Magnussen 12th, Bottas 13th, Tsunoda 14th, Zhou Guanyu 15th, and then the retirements from the race being Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, Sergio Perez, Charles Leclerc, and Logan Sargent. Thank you very much for joining. Be sure to vote for your driver of the day. Certainly Lando Norris was one of my top ones there, really fighting it out throughout, just not having the easiest afternoon, but being able to secure second place in the end. Thank you very much for joining, though. I've been Reese on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.